743-8080 or go to selectquote.com. 1-800-743-8080. That's 1-800-743-8080.
Select Quote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at selectquote.com/commercials.
Nothing slows my little girl down, except a stuffy nose.
Mommy.
That's why I use Sinex Children's Saline from Vicks. Sinex instantly clears mucus in everyday stuffy little noses with a gentle, ultra-fine mist designed for kids. Just Sinex? Breathe. Her stuffy nose is gone for now. And so is she.
Sinex Children's Saline. Sinex, breathe. Use as directed, keep out of reach of children.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of holiday joy at the Home Depot, where you can find everything you need to get ready for the holiday season, like all new festive outdoor decor. Spread more joy this season with bigger, bolder, and brighter inflatables from the Home Depot, like our exclusive new 8-foot animated Santa and reindeer inflatable for just $149, available in-store and online. Get holiday ready right now at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
Good news, everybody.
We stay on the air with you for an extra 2 hours after every Arizona football and men's basketball game all season long. That's why we are the home of the Wildcats. This is Wildcats Radio 1290.
KCUB Tucson, a Cumulus media station.
The Wildcats Radio 1290 studios are brought to you by Casino del Sol, Soul Sports, Bet Easy, Win Big, Bet Local. Your home for Arizona football play-by-play is Wildcats Radio 1290. Live from the CNWT.
From the what? Central Northwest Tucson, duh.
It's DK on the Sports Tip with your host, David Kelly.
Radio. Just when I thought I was out, they drug me back in.
Featuring J.W. Madden.
Don't tell me about flip-flops, man. I'm a native.
And Cricket getting you home with traffic and weather.
Camp on Melt Lemon, not in the left lane on the freeway.
Here we go! And now, a man who has not one, but 3 first names, David Scott Kelly.
3-2 pitch coming. And a fly ball deep right center field. He has done it. This game is tied on a pinch hit home run by Alec Thomas of Kimbrell in the 8th. 5-5 game.
People thought the Diamondbacks were done when they came back from Philadelphia, down 2-0. Then they won Thursday night, and then they tied the game there in the 8th inning thanks to Alec Thomas, but they were not done on Friday night.
3-2 pitch coming. And a fly ball deep right center field. He has done it. This game is tied on a pinch hit home run by Alec Thomas.
That's my bad, DK. I'm sorry about that.
And Alec Thomas, it was so good, you heard it there again.
Got to hear it twice.
He was followed by Gabby Moreno.
Alvarado ready. Moreno digs in. And a shot to left center. That's a hit. D-backs lead. Moreno delivers in the clutch.
6-5, 3 runs in the bottom of the 8th Friday night to come back down from 5-2. And the Diamondbacks take the lead. And who do they hand the ball but to their closer, Paul Sewald?
2 outs. The 2-2 pitch on the way. He got him swinging. Sewald strikes out Turner. And the Arizona Diamondbacks have come back and won this ball game 6-5. They have even this best-of-7 series at 2 games apiece.
All right, that was Friday night. Then we turned to Saturday, a sold-out house in downtown Phoenix, but it did not go well. Zach Gallen got off to a bad start. He gave up a couple of runs in the first inning. Then he kind of settled in, retired 11 in a row. But then the 6th happened, and the Phils brought their big bats to spoil the party.
3 balls, 2 strikes. Here's the payoff pitch. Swing and a blast deep to right center field. That'll go past Schwarbers. A solo home run for Bryce Harper. It's the 2nd homer of the inning for the Phils.
Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber both hitting home runs in that 6th inning. And so it was a 6-1 win on Saturday for the Phillies. They went back to Pennsylvania with a 3-1 lead. And now they are playing Game 6 of the National League Championship Series as we speak. Let's update you right now on what is happening in that ball game.
Diamondbacks download.
Baseball stuff!
All right, the Diamondbacks and the Phillies playing game number 6 right now, and things are looking good at the moment. In the 2nd inning, Arizona puts up a 3 spot as they bring their bats out in the 3rd. Tommy Pham, who missed Game 6 due to injury, back in the lineup. He hit a home run off of Aaron Nola, the Phillies ace, and then Lourdes Gurriel Jr. He hit a home run in that inning, also off of Aaron Nola. Evan Longoria followed that with a double, 3 runs in the 2nd inning for the Diamondbacks, and they lead it right now by a score of 3-1. This game has just gone to the end of 2 innings. Cousin Merrill Kelly on the mound, did give up a run in the bottom of the 2nd. Brandon Marsh with an RBI single scored JT Realmuto, and the Phillies get on the board. Merrill threw 2, though, has 3 Ks. He has walked 3, so his control a little bit suspect. But right now, the Diamondbacks holding a 3-1 lead over the Philadelphia Phillies. Game 6 of the National League Championship Series, trying to force a Game 7 tomorrow night in the city of brotherly love for the right to go to the World Series. Welcome to DK on the Sports Tip. A great Monday afternoon to you. Back in the house, off of my bed, back next here to J.W. Madden. I don't know, J.W. That was, I could have gotten used to working with my pajamas on.
Hey, I could talk to Jose. They could maybe hook you up with some kind of setup at home.
Yeah, that was kind of nice. I was disliking the way I was feeling.
Yeah.
Last Thursday and Friday and parts of Saturday, but not disliking, with my legs up nice, with a pillow behind my back and that kind of thing. Doing radio, that was kind of nice.
We're all just glad that you're on the mend and back up and running.
Yes.
And we can get into it.
We've got a stream going on. We're back streaming today, so you can watch the show. You can see my pretty face. I actually shaved a little bit. I got my hair cut. I'm not as scraggly. You would have been afraid if you had seen me on Friday if I had put myself on screen. It would have been ugly. It would have been ugly. But trying to look good today for all of you out there. So if you're watching on our stream, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook Live, we're on YouTube, and we're on Twitch. So you can watch us on all 4 of those platforms. DK on the Sports Tip. JW Madden is here. Cricket is here as well. So check out one of those streams. You can also listen to the show on Alexa. If you're sitting at home, do you have Alexa, J-Dub?
I do not.
You do not?
No.
Okay, we have Alexa at our house. So, she's pretty interesting. She'll give you the weather and that kind of thing. She can give you scores of games and all kinds of good stuff. And all you got to do is say, Alexa, put on Wildcats 1290. And she'll put on Wildcats 1290, and you can listen to it at home.
Say it one more time, just louder and with, pronunciation so that everybody's Alexa across Tucson turns on 1290 right now.
Alexa, put on Wildcats 1290.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
That's how you do it. And she'll put it right on for you so you can listen right in your living room to the show. All right, lots coming up for you. We are back to football this week. The Wildcats will take on the Oregon State Beavers on Saturday. The Beavers were off as well. The Wildcats, the Beavers, and the Buffaloes, the Colorado Buffaloes, all had the weekend off while everyone else kind of played, and there was some interesting stuff that happened in the Pac-12. We'll get into a little bit of that today as well, but the Beavers will come to town as the 11th ranked team in the country. So the Wildcats will play back-to-back home games against number 9 and number 11. And then coming to town is number 23, the Bruins. That's what they're ranked right now. We'll see what they're ranked at next week. And then also scheduled to come to Tucson is the Utah Utes, and they are currently ranked number 13. So you could not have asked for a better, essentially, November. I mean, it's winning time. As we always say in college football, you got to win in November. If you're going to have a good season, you got to win in November. And you got some marquee games happening here in Tucson in November. There is no reason, absolutely no reason, not to be at Arizona Stadium this Saturday night, next Saturday night, and on November the 18th, Saturday night. You got 3 more chances right now. 2 of those teams coming in here, at least one of those teams could be ranked in the top 10 before it's all said and done. The way Utah's playing, they're likely coming in here as a top 10 team on November the 18th. So there's absolutely no reason for you not to be at Arizona Stadium for these last 3 home games of the football season.
Who would have thought, DK, Utah wouldn't skip a beat with Cam Rising not being there?
I know.
Right? Because word came out yesterday that he's out for the season now.
Yeah. Well,
and yet here they are.
Yeah, that shows you their program. You know, Bryson Barnes comes in, engineers the upset on Saturday.
He played so good yesterday.
At Southern California. Yeah. I mean, that was just a great performance.
Yeah, the scramble he had for like 26 towards the end, man.
Yeah,
amazing.
At the end of the game, I mean, that was something. That was a dude running to try to win a ball game, not with unafraid. Now, you know me, I don't like my quarterbacks running. But when you're running to try to win a game, that's the way to do it. Bryson Barnes, what he did there to get them into field goal range. In fact, let's hear J-Dub, how that game at the Coliseum ended on Saturday night.
Here we go. The middle's tougher. From about the 37 and a half, right up the middle. Out of the hold of Jack Baumeister. The snap is back. The kick is away. It is up, and it is good. It's good. It's good. And the Utes have beaten the Trojans at the Coliseum.
And then Lincoln Riley doesn't let any of his players talk to the media after the game. He comes out, but none of the players come out. You got the Heisman Trophy winner. You don't even allow him to come out and talk about this big loss. USC, as an alum, just continues to embarrass me. They continue to embarrass me as an alum by the things that they are doing. They went after a writer earlier in the year, and now they're not. You lose a big game, and you're not going to send your athletes out there to stand up and talk to the media after a loss? What is that? And I would say the same thing if Jed Fish did that. That's ridiculous. It's embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing. USC can't get out of their own way. And as an alum, I mean, I can't even talk about them anymore. They've embarrassed me so much.
The first quote I heard was something about the players maybe thinking too much of expectations, right? The blaming it on the idea that USC is supposed to be good, so the pressure is too big. And if you go to USC, DK, that's kind of part of
what
signing
you sign
the contract,
up for.
right?
Yeah, you're signing up for that. There's no reason that you need to coddle these kids. I mean, this is college. You're supposed to learn how to be a professional. And part of being a professional is having to go out in front of the media and stand up and talk about why the team lost, talk about why the team won. You can't just go out there when things are good. You got to be able to go out there when things are bad as well. And I would say that about any team here in Arizona. I don't like it when the Wildcats, they don't generally do that. They've done it a few times in the past. And I don't like it when they do it.
Got to face the music.
Got to face the music. Exactly. All right, 520-848-1290 is the number to get in on the program. We can talk about any of that. We're going to keep you updated on your Diamondbacks, who are winning 3-1 in the third inning right now. We will welcome in the third member of our program because we are just a program of three right now. Mm-hmm. Three people, DK, J-Dub, Cricket. We got to find another initial for you. KO, is that a good one? Has anybody ever gone by KO?
A friend of mine, because my initials are KOJ, he would call me Kodge.
Yeah. KOJ.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I like that. KOJ. Was that a long time ago or is that recent?
Yeah, it was probably 25 plus years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just call her Crix.
Crix. Yeah, he does call me Crix.
Crix. Yeah. I like that.
Our boss calls me Crickster.
Crickster.
Yeah.
So we got Cricket, Crix, Crickster, and KOJ.
Yeah.
All right. Which one do you like?
You guys can call me anything.
I don't know if we've talked about that. How you came up with the name Cricket? How that happened?
My mom did.
Your mom did.
Yeah, she named me after her favorite soap opera. Nicknamed me after her favorite soap opera character.
Wait a minute. Don't tell me this soap opera because I know
this. You know this. You watched it with Grandma.
And the Restless?
Yes, sir.
Young and the Restless.
Very good.
Oh my God.
Very well done.
That is why you're Cricket?
Yes.
From Cricket on Young and the Restless?
She's been calling me that since 10th grade. So I've had the nickname Cricket for a while.
My dad watched Young and the Restless.
Oh, cool.
He would make me, because my dad did not understand the VCR. So when I would go there during the summer times, I would have to record it for him so he could come home and watch it after he got off of work. So, yeah, he was a huge Young and the Restless, Victor Maitland. What is not Victor Newman?
What was his last
Victor
name?
Newman.
Yes.
Victor Newman. All the bad guys are named Victor. Victor Newman, Victor and Nikki. I think they're all still on that show.
Are they really?
As a matter of fact, Cricket's not on it anymore.
Oh, where'd Cricket go?
I don't know. That's a good question. We'll have to find that out. We'll have to find. You just gave me a homework assignment. We have to find out what happened to Cricket on Young and the Restless. All right, getting you home every 20 minutes. She does not maybe cause drama, and sleep with other people's husbands like they do on those things and that kind of thing. But she can get you home every 20 minutes on the fives with your traffic and weather.
From the O'Reilly Chevrolet Traffic Center, it's Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together. Oracle and Rancho Vistoso, collision in Oro Valley. Also to the southwest side, 12th and Drexel and 12th Avenue. Some backups on eastbound Grant Road at Wilmot. Also collision southbound Sabino Canyon approaching Tanca Verde. A 10% chance of rain this afternoon, 60 and clear overnight, 25% chance of rain, and 79 tomorrow. 87 now. I'm Cricket with your Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together.
This report.
1290.
520-848-1290, 520-848-1290 is the number to get in on the program today. You can call that number. You can text us at that number. Our email is studio. That's studio at wildcatsradio1290.com. Studio at wildcatsradio1290.com. All right, last time we talked to you, of course, was Friday. We were getting ready for Arizona basketball, the first exhibition game of the season. The Wildcats on Friday night took on Lewis Clark State, and it was even for a little while, but then the Wildcats got things going.
All the way, Caleb Love will drive the other way and slam it home. Defense leads to offense. Shot. Here's a steal by Keyshawn Johnson. He'll drive the length of the court and slam it home.
Big time highlight play there.
Brown stolen away by Jaden Bradley. 2-on-1 with Boswell. Brown for a trailing Caleb Love, who will hammer it down.
Final score 110-70, a 40-point win for the Arizona Wildcats, who had 42 fast break points in this game. 5 players scored in double figures. It's an exhibition game, and we don't. You expect the Wildcats to win these games. In fact, I think there's been one exhibition game in the time that I've been here that the Wildcats have lost.
Yeah, it's pretty rare.
I believe it was the back and around. It was during one of those down years.
I think they lost
in like 2013 or 14. It was in the Sean Miller era. They lost the next.
I think they lost to Marathon Oil or Athletes in Action once in the 90s, but that's about the only one I ever remember.
Those were the good old days.
Yeah, the good old days.
Back when they had some names for some of those teams, those vagabond teams that would come through and play. I mean, there
weren't leagues in Europe right at the time. I mean, there was a couple, but not like there is today. And there was no G League, so these are all guys who are 25 to 30 who are trying to get roster spots somewhere professionally, and they used to play on these touring teams that would get college teams ready for their seasons.
So it was 2011. The Wildcats lost in their exhibition opener by 1 point to Seattle Pacific. Yeah, Seattle Pacific came into McHale Center and won. Now, is that an indication of good or bad things to come? That team in 2011, 2012 did not make the NCAA tournament. So if you do lose at home in your exhibition opener, that could definitely be a harbinger of things to come. And you'll remember that was Sean Miller's third team.
Right.
He had the first 2 teams where he kind of galvanized getting those kids that were supposed to go to play at USC. They all came to Los Angeles, and they were able to go to the Elite 8. And then he lost all those kids, and then he still was trying to retool the program at that point. And that 2011-2012 team didn't make the NCAA tournament. That ended the streak, I believe. What was the streak at that time? I think it was like 25, 26 years in a row.
It's hard because there's a vacant one in there, so it just depends on who you ask. Yeah, there was one that was vacated.
But yeah, so and then they ended up losing that NIT game at home to Bucknell. I remember Bucknell came in here and won by 11.
They didn't want to be
in the first round of the NIT. They absolutely did not want to be in that ball game. So good to see, although like I said, it was close. I think it was like 17-17 at one point early in the ball game. But the Wildcats were able to pull things together. Some of the numbers will give you 23 points for Caleb Love. The Wildcats hit 9 of 26 three-pointers in the game. Caleb had 3 of those. He had 23 points. I think the thing that really kind of stood out to a lot of people was he had 7 assists, which, again, we weren't sure if Caleb was just primarily going to be a scorer, but he was able to show, at least in this one game, this one sample size, that he can distribute the basketball as well.
Yeah, I think he's always been a bit of a combo guard. I think North Carolina asked him to be that primary scorer at times, especially late in shot clocks. But if you look at the system that Coach Lloyd is running, clearly the whole point is finding space, drawing defenders, and looking for the open man. It doesn't matter what position you play. Basketball these days is moving towards a more positionless sense anyway. But Caleb Love clearly has the ability to find the open man. 7 assists, to me, DK, he's really looking for that pass when it's available instead of forcing it. We talked to Kelvin on Friday about trust in your teammates, and it's really hard when you transfer into a new program. You don't really know those guys. But this trip that they took overseas over the summer allowed those guys to really get to know each other. Clearly, there's trust. If he's looking at 7 assists, 9 of 12 from the field, really, really impressive. Clearly, he's a guy on a mission, man on a mission, DK, because he came in with you mentioned it on Friday, a bit of a reputation, maybe a volume score, maybe a little bit, the shot number's a little too high. 12 field goal attempts.
Yeah,
is a great number. And I don't know what kind of numbers we're going to see out of Caleb Love this year. What I do know is the efficiency is what coaches are looking for. They're just looking for him to make the right basketball play. The team is chock full of talent, DK. I mean, there is so much talent right now on this team. We can get into like what I was super impressed about, but Caleb Love in particular just feels like a guy who's how many miles does he have in college basketball? So much experience, and at the highest level, everybody comes from North Carolina day in, day out. He's already seen those challenges, making deep runs in the NCAA tournament. He's always had that ability to rise above. It's just about how efficient you are in those moments, and that's what leads to wins. Overall, though, to me, the most impressive thing, and obviously we didn't see the full team during this exhibition game, the most impressive thing to me overall is just the base decent defensive pressure, DK. It's just astounding the difference when you look out there with Caleb Love, Keyshawn Johnson, Jaden Bradley. We know Kylan Boswell is a really good on-ball defender, moves his feet really well, really quick hands, does not take risks, but swipes at the ball at the most opportune time. You know what I mean? Guys who look for steals in the passing lane, different than guys on ball swiping balls away. I must have seen 5 or 6 steals in that game. So hard to really kind of take away anything from a game against Lewis and Clark State. And that being said, what you can see is what the players bring from the Arizona side. It doesn't really matter who the opponent is. It's the intensity and that on-ball defense. You're talking about Keyshawn Johnson, and a really, really good perimeter defender for his size. And again, just like Caleb Love, so much experience. Final Four run last year. I just think with Keyshawn Johnson on the perimeter, Kylan Boswell and Caleb Love, and Jaden Bradley in particular, I think he's the kind of odd man out we haven't really talked a lot about. But Jaden Bradley is a really, really good on-ball defender as well. So I think this team is going to be really tough to score against once Oumar Ballo comes back, gets healthy. Pella Larson, a very good, established, very good defender. So it's going to be we know what Coach Tommy Lloyd can do on offense. I think this is going to be his best defensive team by far.
Well, obviously, those guys you mentioned did not play due to injuries in this ball game. Oumar Ballo sat out, as well as Pella Larson, along with Matthias Krivas. All 3 of those young men sat out of this ball game. Let's focus on those 3 transfers since we talked heavily about them on Friday, and we'll go back and review our question of the day from Friday. Keyshawn Johnson, 8 for 8 from the floor. He scored 19 points, had 5 assists in this ball game, 3 rebounds, 4 steals. So a stat sheet stuffer. In fact, you mentioned his defense. He led the team in that particular game with those 4 steals. So a guy that can do a lot of things right there. And Jaden Bradley, you mentioned him. Light numbers, played 20 minutes, just 1 of 2 from the floor, finished with 2 points, 2 steals, and 2 assists as well. We mentioned our question of the day from Friday was, of the Arizona transfers, the 3 transfers, which of the 3 transfers would be the most impactful? Would it be the guard, Caleb Love? Would it be the guard, Jaden Bradley? Or would it be the forward, and that would be Keyshawn Johnson? And the numbers didn't really change much from what we had at the top of the show. And I think that was maybe a little bit of a surprise for me, that the ultimate winner in this whole thing was Keyshawn Johnson by a long margin.
It's recency bias, right? I mean, everybody just saw Keyshawn Johnson and how he performed in the NCAA tournament on their way to the final. Their first ever Elite Eight, I want to say, for San Diego State, and then their first, obviously, run to the Final Four. So I think watching what Keyshawn Johnson had done, also Arizona saw San Diego State last year. So I think a lot of Arizona fans, maybe replying to the poll, are very, very familiar with how good Keyshawn is. On the other hand, I think Caleb Love, his reputation coming in as, a bit of a volume shooter, if you look at his statistics across the board from his time at North Carolina and college in general, I think a lot of people, again, worry about those types of numbers. When you're talking about 6-7 3-pointers per game at like a 30% clip is basically what they just lost, DK, this summer in when Kirk Kriisa transferred, right? I mean, with the high volume, low results. I think that if you do that same poll in 2 weeks or, maybe 5 games into the regular season, it may change. Because I think Caleb Love has a reputation coming in. People might have read an article about him transferring, and the article might have gone into some detail about volume struggles at North Carolina. But all you have to do is watch Caleb Love play basketball, and you can see how special he is. I mean, they haven't had a guy like that who can score at all 3 levels and really has that burst, crazy athleticism for his height. I mean, a couple of those dunks that he had, DK, really impressive. And just overall, I think all 3 of them are going to contribute. I didn't participate in the poll on Friday, but I will right now. I think all 3 of those guys are going to be big-time contributors to this rotation, and mainly the big reason why the defense in particular is going to be great with Keyshawn Johnson and Jalen Bradley in particular. They're all going to be impactful.
Chris Hughes checked in on the poll, said Caleb Love out of those 3 to him would be the most impactful, but thought also that Pella Larson and Umar are definitely going to be big-time contributors. We all kind of figure that that'll be the case. In fact, he likes all of our players as contributors to a team effort. And again, like we've said, there's a lot of guys out there. There could be a lot of guys that get into this mix this season for the Arizona Wildcats. And in fact, in this game alone, I mean, when you look in terms of 18 or more minutes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 guys played 18 or more minutes in this ball game. And then you had Paulius Morascus played 14, and Conrad Martinez got 15 minutes of play in this ball game. So it was good to see him out there.
He looked really good out there. He looked really confident in his decision making, which is super important for a point guard. I will say really quick, DK, KJ Lewis also. I didn't neglected to talk about him on the perimeter defensively, but I don't know. There's a lot of guys on this roster. So as far as KJ Lewis minutes going forward, I think Coach Lowe was very clear that that's not set in stone now, nor will it be. And I think it's it's evolving situation as far as what the rotation is going to be. But perimeter defense, you got to mention the freshman KJ Lewis as well, because super impressive. 17 steals, DK, is a number that you're never going to see in a game. And there you go back to the whole level of competition thing, but just super impressive by how aggressive the perimeter defenders were in getting in the passing lanes.
KJ Lewis played 19 minutes, 5 of 8 from the floor, hit a 3, finished with 13 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and 3 of those 17 steals that J-Dub mentioned. All right, did you go to the exhibition game on Friday night? I want to hear what you had to think of your Arizona Wildcats. 520-848-1290, 520-848-1290. What did you think? First look, we're going to hear later in the show from Reggie Geary. He had a chance to call the game with Brian Jeffries and Ryan Hansen. He'll join us. We'll get his thoughts on what he saw on opening night. There is another exhibition game coming up a week from tonight. That'll be against New Mexico Highlands, and that will be a game that'll also start at 7 o'clock. Want to make sure that we keep you up to date on what is happening in Philadelphia with your Arizona Diamondbacks. Right now, they have gone to the end of 4, and the Diamondbacks still holding a 3-1 lead over the Philadelphia Phillies. We'll keep you updated all show long as the Diamondbacks try to force a Game 7 in Philadelphia. 520-848-1290 is the number to get on the program. Want to make sure we get you home every 20 minutes on the 5s with your traffic and your weather. Here's Cricket.
From the O'Reilly Chevrolet Traffic Center, it's Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together. Slowdowns for traffic on Swan southbound approaching and passing Fort Lowell, on northbound Swan at Grant Road, picking up there. Busy southbound Sabino Canyon at Tanque Verde, and also on eastbound Grant Road at Wilmot. Reported collisions La Cholla and Naranja, Valencia and Benson Highway, 12th Avenue in Bilby, and also Oracle and Rancho Vistoso. 10% chance of showers this afternoon, 60 the low and clear overnight, 25% chance of rain, and 79 tomorrow, 87 now. I'm Cricket with your Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together.
This report is sponsored by Mucinex Fast Max Kickstart.
Hey kids, breakfast.
Wildcats Radio 1290.
520-848-1290, 520-848-1290 is our phone number if you want to talk to us. Right now, though, we are going to talk some hockey. The Tucson Roadrunners opened up their 2023-24 season with a pair of road wins down in Texas. Came home on Saturday for the home opener against Coachella Valley. Unfortunately, that did not go as well, a 4-0 loss, but we are joined by the head coach of the Tucson Roadrunners, Steve Potvin. And Steve, through the first week as a whole, I would imagine that the organization has to be relatively happy with not only with the way that your club has played down here in the American League, but the way that the club has played to start the season in the National League as well. Can you hear me, Steve? Steve, you got me? Okay, we'll put Steve back on hold. He may not have me. We have a new phone system we are kind of massaging into the first day here as we try to continue to upgrade our facilities and make things and the listening experience that much better for you. Steve, can you hear me now? Okay, so we will put Steve back on hold and see if we can figure out how to get him back on the air. Until that time, we will chat with you. 520-848-1290, 520-848-1290. We will give you an update on the Diamondbacks, as we said we would continually do. Right now, this game is in the top half of the fifth inning, and the Diamondbacks continue to lead the Philadelphia Phillies by a score of 3-1. This is not the only baseball game that is happening tonight. The Diamondbacks are trying to get to a Game 7, but we have a Game 7 happening tonight in the American League. The Texas Rangers and the Houston Astros will play Game 7 of that series, scheduled to begin at about 5:03 in Houston. This has been an odd series in that the road team has won every single game in the series. The Rangers went on the road, won the first 2 games in Houston. The Astros went then down to Fort Worth and won the next 2 games there, and now they have returned to Houston, where the Astros won on Sunday to go up 3 games. The Rangers won on Sunday to go up 3-2. Let me get this straight again. The Astros won all 3 games in Dallas. Then they went home, and the Rangers won Sunday night. So it is now 3-3 with the road team having won all 6 games so far in that series. It'll be Max Scherzer on the mound tonight for the Rangers. He did not pitch all that well the first time out, and he'll be opposed by Christian Javier for the Astros, who has been very good in the postseason. He won 10 games during the regular season, and in 10 and 2/3 innings in the postseason, he has struck out 12 and allowed just 2 earned runs. So we will have an update on that series tomorrow. We'll chat again with our friend Francisco Romero and get his thoughts on if the Astros are returning to the World Series or if their season is coming to an end. 520-848-1290, 520-848-1290 is the number to get in on the program. This postseason, for me anyway, has been very interesting. And it's been interesting from the standpoint that I've had connections with a number of these cities and these teams that have been in the postseason this year. I mentioned that my uncle played for the Baltimore Orioles for a number of years of his career. He was on the 1979 team in Baltimore that went to the World Series and unfortunately had a 3-1 lead and blew the 3-1 lead against the We Are Family Pittsburgh Pirates before losing in 7 games. So I have a connection to the Orioles. I spent half of my early life growing up in Los Angeles. So had a connection to the Dodgers. They were kind of the team that I followed when I was growing up as a kid in L.A. And then obviously living here now in Arizona, for the last 15 years. Have a connection from watching these Arizona Diamondbacks teams and watching, them get to the postseason and being there in 2017 at the wild card game when they beat the Colorado Rockies and going on to the division series, unfortunately getting swept by the Dodgers, and then watching 6 years of futility there before this team finally was able to break through and get back to the postseason this year, ending that string. And then probably the most interesting of the connections is the fact that my father is from Philadelphia. And my parents were divorced, so I spent a large majority of my summers growing up with my father and in the city of Philadelphia. And so growing up watching a lot of Philadelphia Phillies baseball, and it's very interesting. I go back to the standpoint of how you kind of grow into your sportsdom as a young person growing up here in the United States. And I often was wondering, and I was wondering this over the weekend as I was watching this particular series, like, what if I had grown up in Arizona? What if I'd grown up out here and there was no Major League Baseball team during my sports informative years in the mid-'70s, late '70s, and early '80s? I might not care as much about the game as I do now. And that's something I'd be interested to hear from you on that. How your baseball, if you grew up here in Arizona, 520-848-1290, 520-848-1290, how you developed your baseball fandom. Because for me, it was sitting on the porch with my grandmothers. I had two grandmothers, my mom's mom and my dad's mom, who absolutely loved the game of baseball. And they would sit out on the porch after dinner, and we had the radio on. And the baseball game was on in the summer times. And with some of the summer, I would be, with my grandparents in Ohio and Cleveland.
And that goes
and
away.
some of the summer, I would be with my dad's parents in Philadelphia.
Like that's what he was hearing is when we put him on air.
The soundtrack was
sound
the
cut off,
same.
and there's
There was a porch, there was a radio, and there was baseball.
By the way, to go to
And when I was in Cleveland, obviously those games were the Indians. And when I was in Philadelphia, those games were the Phillies. I mean, I grew up listening to the Greg Lazinski, Bake McBride, Gary Maddox Phillies of the late 70s. Those were some teams that got to the cusp of the World Series, some heartbreaking losses in the National League Championship Series to the Dodgers. It was kind of a very fun time for me because I was growing up in Los Angeles at the time, so I had my love for the Dodgers, but then I would spend my summers in Philadelphia, and I had my love for the Phillies. So this has been an interesting series from me from that standpoint. And I look at my mother. My mother's 87 years old. I look at my mother. I mean, she grew up, and this is when I talk about sometimes how a generational, how sports is generational. Like, if my mother, and going back to what I said a few minutes ago, had I grown up out here in Arizona, like, my mother probably would not have had the same connection to baseball as I had with her being from Cleveland, because she saw Satchel Paige and Larry Doby and those initial black players to play in Major League Baseball. She actually witnessed that growing up. She actually went to games and saw Larry Doby play for the Cleveland Indians. So it's generational, going all the way back from my mother growing up having a love of the game of baseball. That might not have been the same if she had grown up out here in Arizona, where there was no professional baseball until 1998.
Yeah, that was me, DK.
Yeah.
I grew up here, and there was no baseball. There was also no football, right? Out to Phoenix when I was in high school. graduated high school. So growing up, elementary, junior high, and high school, it was all about the Arizona. The Ice Cats were huge. The basketball team obviously making a lot of noise. That was the start of Candrea's run. A lot going on around the U of A in those times. So as far as any kind of outlet to professional baseball, Tucson has the luxury of being one of the biggest transplant cities in America. So there was a lot of affiliations and rooting interests that people brought with them from whatever part of the country that they came from. So I talked a lot of baseball growing up with people, but it was always about some faraway place in some faraway land, right? Kids growing up here in those days didn't have any connection to professional sports in the state of Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting how that shapes you. And I want to hear from you on that, how growing up here in Arizona shaped your fandom, because not only was there no professional baseball until 1998, there was no professional football here until the 1980s.
They also made the big mistake of calling it the Phoenix Cardinals to start, which kind of alienated the rest of the state. Some people don't like Phoenix.
Well, yeah, we know all about that. 520-848-1290, 520-848-1290 is the number to get on the program. If you grew up here, I want to hear specifically from people that grew up here in Arizona, born in Arizona, grew up here in Arizona. Like J-Dub said, it's very transient. My buddy went to the games this weekend up in Phoenix, and he said it was like you would go into some of the bars and you'd have thought you were down on Broad Street. And if you don't know where Broad Street is in Philadelphia, okay? He said there were Phillies fans all over the place in Phoenix this weekend. And that's not, like we said, that's not unusual. I mean, when the Cubs come to town, when the Cardinals come to town, when the Yankees come to town, we see it. We've seen it. We've talked about it. I mean, I can remember a couple of years ago, there was a Steelers game against the Cardinals. That might have been right after COVID, or I think it was. And it was, I swear to God, it was probably 3/4 Pittsburgh fans. It's Arizona has been transient like that in terms of its sports. And so you get to series like this, or you get to this level, and you're competing against a town like Philadelphia where, I mean, those fans, their allegiance goes back to not only their parents, but their grandparents, maybe even some of them for their great-grandparents, depending on how young they are.
How about 100-year difference, right? Because the Diamondbacks came about in like 98, something like that. The Phillies, first they were the Quakers, but then they became the Phillies in 1890. So they've been the Phillies since 1890. How many generations is that of fans growing up around the same area and teaching their kids who they're supposed to root for by their onesies or whatever they get them when they get them a Phillies, outfits when they're going to first grade type of thing. It happens early.
Yeah, well, that's right. We got our guy Mark over there. He's a Philly guy. We got a couple. We got Dave Lavender, who's our morning guy on K-Hit. He's a Phillies fan. He had his Phillies hat on today as well. These Philadelphia people are all over the place. Love them though. Like I said, spent pretty much every summer of my childhood in Philadelphia. So have a very large appreciation for that fan base and what they've gone through and the way that they support their teams. All right, much more coming up in the next hour. We are going to get more into what happened with Arizona basketball this past weekend. You will also hear from Jed Fish and Tommy Lloyd in the next hour. We'll talk to Reggie Gary in the 5 o'clock hour and get his thoughts. Hopefully, we get our phone. We're actually kind of back. It feels like we're back to the first day of the show.
Efforting.
When we couldn't get any of the phones to work. But we got a new system in here. We're working through that. This is DK on the Sports Tip. You're listening to Wildcats Radio 1290.
Chevrolet Traffic Center, it is Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic. With some slowdowns on westbound Ahaway at Mission and westbound Grant Road at I-10, westbound Prince Road at Romero. Collisions reported Alvernon and Drexel, Valencia and Benson Highway, 12th Avenue in Bilby, and to the northwest side of Marana, Ina and Old Father, in Oro Valley, La Cholla and Naranja, also Oracle and Rancho Vistoso. 10% chance of showers this afternoon, 60 the low and clear overnight. 25% 50% chance of rain, and 79 tomorrow. 87 now. I'm Cricket with your Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's.
$3 with a coupon at TobaccoBarnTucson.com. To repeat these savings, please press 5. Save up to 40%. Save with no state sales tax. Save with no city sales tax. And save another $3 with a coupon at TobaccoBarnTucson.com. Please press 9 if you're stupid. Wow, you're about one taco short of a combo plate, aren't you? Don't be stupid. Save your money. Come to Tobacco Barn, Nogales Highway just south of Valencia. Check TobaccoBarnTucson.com.
Hey, Tucson, on your way to McHale, tune in to the biggest pregame show in the Pac-12, and after the game, listen for the highlights only on the home of Wildcats men's basketball. This is Wildcats Radio 1290.
KCUE Tucson, a Cumulus media station.
The Wildcats Radio 1290 studios are brought to you by Casino del Sol, Soul Sports, Bet Easy, Win Big, Bet Local. Arizona men's basketball plays here. This is Wildcats Radio 1290.
3 little words no parent wants to hear.
My tummy hurts.
And it always seems to happen at the worst times. Like in the middle of the morning rush, when you still have homework to check and lunches to pack, and of course, you're already late for work. Luckily, there's Pepto Kids. Pepto Kids chewables provide fast relief for common stomach issues, turning those 3 words into these 3 words.
I feel better.
Bad time for stomach upsets? Good time for Pepto Kids chewables. Fast relief for little tummies. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Zane's Law Injury Lawyers is celebrating 20 years of standing up for the underdog. To celebrate, they are donating $100,000 to local charities. 20 nonprofit organizations will receive $5,000 each. If you would like to apply for this charitable giving initiative, go to zaneslaw.com/community. That's zaneslaw.com/community.
I thought learning a language would be too much work, but Babbel makes learning fun. J'aime Babbel.
Babbel's lessons only take 10 or 15 minutes, and soon you turn and realize, hey, I'm starting to speak another language. How'd that happen?
Babbel isn't robots talking. You learn words and phrases from real native speakers.
Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
Cookie wants to be a professional wrestler.
I'm Cookie Serratos and I'm 11 years old.
She also wants to win all the medals. That's why Cookie and her family make every day count, squeezing out her best with Go-Go Squeeze.
Okay, Cookie, let's break for a Go-Go Squeeze.
Go-Go Squeeze Fruit on the Go pouches are a nutritious snack made from 100% fruit with no sugar added.
Go, Cookie!
Because when you nurture your kids, you squeeze out the best in them. Squeeze out the best with Go-Go Squeeze. Not a low-calorie food. Products range from 11 to 13 grams of sugar and 60 to 70 calories per serving.
Live from the CNWT.
From the what? Central Northwest Tucson. Duh.
It's DK on the Sports Tip with your host, David Kelly.
Radio. Just when I thought I was out, they drug me back in.
Featuring J.W. Madden.
Don't tell me about flip-flops, man. I'm a native.
And Cricket getting you home with traffic and weather.
Camp on Melt Lemon, not in the left lane on the freeway.
Here we go! And now, a man who has not one, but 3 first names, David Scott Kelly.
All right, I'm a little concerned. The National Basketball Association season begins tomorrow for the Phoenix Suns. And I've been talking about this all summer long. I don't know if I can watch the games at my house. All right, first game is tomorrow. Now, the first game I'll be able to see because I think the first game is on TNT. In fact, I think 3 of the first 4 games for your Phoenix Suns are on TNT. So I'll be able to watch those games. They play the Golden State Warriors. They'll open up the season against the Golden State Warriors. And that game will be on Turner. But I pulled something up today. This is basically like a channel guide. The games are on Arizona's Family Sports Network. That's the new thing that's been created by the Suns. And I go down to Tucson, and I see Cox. I see Cox on this list, which is what we have here at the station. We have Cox, so I'll be able to watch the games if I'm sitting here in my studio, and you'll be able to watch the games if you live on the east side or the south side. I see a listing for an antenna. So if you have an antenna, you'll be able to watch those games. I don't see anything on this list that says Xfinity. And that's the cable company I've got. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch Phoenix Suns basketball right now unless they are on national television. And what did you JW said this is the most anticipated, what did you call it just a few minutes ago?
Well, you mentioned
is about as sexy a team as we've had in a while.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that their first couple of games are going to be on national television. I would imagine the Suns probably have as many nationally televised games as just about anybody. Obviously, the Lakers, the Warriors, these are the teams that get those nationally televised games. But when you add Bradley Beal to Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, I mean, that's a very sexy team. That's a lot of people are going to want to watch that team play. So I feel like it's Groundhog Day. I think we just went through the last 14 years of this with the other league that Arizona Wildcats are leaving, that people couldn't find those games on their providers because not everybody carried it. I think the NBA's just got a really big problem right now with, I've had a League Pass for the last few years, and I can't watch Suns games because of proximity.
Right.
And I think it's a problem when you've got, a popular team, and if it's I don't know what the distance or the mile. It feels like we're far enough away that if we pay for League Pass for the year, you shouldn't have to have blacked out games all over the place. As far as moving forward, what Sheba and those guys with the Suns and Mercury want to do, passing out antenna is great, DK, but if you can't
then
pick
I gotta unhook my cable and then plug in my antenna just to watch that game, and I can't watch anything else.
Exactly. And if you can't find it on whatever provider of the 10 that are available these days, that's a problem.
So they open tomorrow against Golden State, 7 o'clock tip. That game is on TNT. Thursday night's game at the Lakers is also on TNT. Saturday is the first game that would be carried by the local. Now, that's also going to be carried on NBA TV, but like J-Dub just said, if I remember correctly, any game local on NBA TV is generally blacked out.
All of them, yeah. Last year, Paige started liked following the Suns a bit, and so we would tune in every once in a while to watch a game. And my experience was, 90%, 95% of the time that we tried to tune into a Suns game, it was blacked out.
Yeah. So Saturday will be the first game that we might have some issues when they host. That's the home opener against Utah. They got 3 games at home. They're playing back-to-back home games against San Antonio next Tuesday and next Thursday. Those are the first 6 games or 5 games of the season. Golden State, Lakers, home to Utah, San Antonio, and San Antonio. But right now, so if you have, and I'll just throw this out here so you're aware, if you have Cox Cable in Tucson, you can watch the games on Channel 19. Channel 19 if you have Cox Cable. If you have an antenna here in Tucson, you can watch the Suns on Channel 13.5. So that is a KOLD sub-channel. 13.5 is where you can watch the games. But again, if you've got Xfinity, like me, right now, it does not appear like you can watch the games. And we've reached out to the Suns to try to get some clarification on this. There is a streaming service as well. It's called Kiswe, but that you have to pay for. You have to pay for the streaming service, and then you can watch it on stuff like Roku and Fire TV Stick or whatever all of that kind of thing is. I have Roku. I don't have Fire TV or anything of that nature. But again, that's going to cost you money. And it shouldn't be like that. If this is set up to be free TV, you should have deals with all the cable companies, I would think. But that's not what I'm reading here, because I don't see Xfinity on any of the other. They have the listings for Phoenix and Flagstaff, and I don't see Xfinity Comcast listed there under either of those cities either.
So one of our favorite callers, Paul in Phoenix, decided to call in and test our phone lines before our VIP, Mr. Reggie Geary, comes in next segment. So how about we do that?
Let's try that. Paul, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Paul, are you there?
Can you? I can hear you, David. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Got it fixed.
Yes.
All right.
There we go.
We are operational again here.
That was Mr. Mark Simpson, by the way, who helped us get
Thanks
all that
to Mark
fixed.
Simpson, our Philly guy.
There you go. Hey, real quick, you mentioned growing up here in Arizona, and I lived in Tucson until 75, then moved to Phoenix, and then eventually went back to school at the U of A, of course. But I remember as a kid, because down in Tucson they always played, and here in Phoenix they played the Dodger game. They had the Dodger Network up here in Phoenix, and I grew up a Pittsburgh Pirate fan, huge Willie Stargell fan. So anytime the Dodgers and Pirates were playing, I was ecstatic because I knew I could listen to my Pirates on the radio, and that was wonderful. Those were great memories. But then also on those rare occasions watching or listening to late night basketball, I would get my little transistor radio and somehow bounce the signals from KNBR out of San Francisco and hear some of back in the day when I was a Laker fan because I was a Kareem fan. Okay. So, those times of cheering for other teams, it's kind of like until we really had. And I was a Suns fan too. Don't get me wrong. And I heard you talking about the TV station and being up here in Phoenix with Cox Cable. We are set. I think it's Channel 4 for us or something like that, and we'll be able to see all the Suns games that are not on the national broadcast stuff. But it is kind of interesting how all of us fans kind of came together. The people here in Arizona, we had to kind of adopt teams. And I adopted the Cardinals back in the day. And I remember even traveling for football.
For football, okay.
For football. And so I remember back in the day traveling to the old Texas Stadium for a game. And, this was before security was an issue with players and all that stuff. And my friend and I, we were at the same hotel as the Cardinals. And I walk out and we're waiting and we see the bus. And my friend looks at me and said, "Hey," he said, "that's Buddy Ryan. He got on the bus." And so I walk onto the bus and said, "Coach, can we get a picture?"
Wait, you walked onto the bus?
I walked onto. There was no security there. Wow. I literally walked onto the bus. I stepped on the bus, and he was sitting right in the front row, that first seat. He got off the bus. He comes down, takes pictures, and he goes, "What are you boys doing all the way out here?" We said, "Well, we're like the only two fans following the Cardinals, and we just about were the only two fans following the Cardinals back in the day. When with all the Dallas fans and all that." But the only other great memory, with all the fans being who they were, the Dallas fans, my friend and I, we were totally committed to the Arizona Cardinals. I think at the time they may have been Phoenix Cardinals, I'm not sure, but it was the Jerry Maguire game, the Christmas night game, and there was a sea of just blue fans in the tunnel. And back in the day, the players would come in out of a tunnel that the fans could actually get to them pretty easy. And a Cardinal coach was looking through just going back into the locker room, looking through all this blue. He spotted my friend wearing a red, and he walked right up to my friend and jammed a football in his stomach and gave him the football. Wow. And we thought we were the greatest thing since, so like a bunch of young little kids. But anyway, it's kind of cool growing up here. But, right now, of course, the Diamondbacks right now are leading, I think, except they just changed pitchers. I'm like, oh, my goodness, why did we do that? But that's another story.
It's funny, the generational stuff, because Garrett, DK, who works here, right? He's in his mid-20s. He grew up here. He's been a Diamondbacks fan since he could remember.
Yeah.
Right? He was at that game. Right? Yeah, he was at the walk-off game the other day. Old guys like us and Paul, we remember a time before professional sports came to Arizona.
That's true. I remember that, of course, I'm much older than you, J-Dub, but I remember back in the day it was big controversy, like, how do we get these last 3 or 4 families to move from where Chase Field is going to be built? And it was a big controversy.
There were holdouts, huh? They didn't want to give up their homes.
There were holdouts, and there's all sorts of rumors that go back around. There's stories about that stuff back in the day. But and even back in the day with the stadium, when the Cardinals playing at Sun Devil Stadium, and the fans being out there, the opposing team's fans and whatnot, and it was just an interesting time back then. And as much as people say, "Oh, now the Cardinal fans are selling their tickets," I tell you what, when the Cardinals are doing well, despite whether it's the Steelers or the Cowboys or the Niners, despite the fact that those fans are well represented in that stadium, when the Cardinals do something really well and play really well, that stadium definitely is Cardinals. It may not seem like it to some people, but when you're there, it's Cardinals. So it's all good. But hey, guys, David, I don't know if you had a chance to go out to practice for U of A, yesterday or was it yesterday? I'm just curious what your thoughts are about the quarterback situation. And I don't need to stay on the phone. I know you got to get to Reggie Gary, but I'm just curious if you have any feel.
Reggie's not coming on until the 5 o'clock hour, but they don't allow us to go to practice. What are you talking about, Paul?
Oh, I thought they let.
Well, there's one day. There's one day they allow us to come to practice, and that's Tuesday. But we can't ever go because practice it's at 4:30. So we literally would have to shut down the show. I don't know that they would allow us to do the show from practice. That would be kind of cool, but I doubt that they would allow that. Yeah, so no, we have not. I got to get an assistant. I got to get another assistant. Like, if you want to come down and be my assistant, then I can anoint you, and you can go to practice on Tuesdays and tell us what's happening. Now, we can't talk about it on the air. We can talk about it amongst ourselves because there's a strict rule that we cannot talk about what we see in that Tuesday. We can't report it, but at least it's really only for our knowledge, our knowledge only.
Well, the last thing I want to do is get on Jed's bad side, because I like Jed. So I think we'll just have to wait, I guess, until Saturday, like the rest of us, like everybody else, to find out who's going to start. But I tell you what, Facebook seems to be a big, oh my goodness, it's constantly, you know, who's going to start, not going to start, blah blah blah. It's a big deal. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. I'm looking forward to the game, and then of course, another 7:30 game the following week for homecoming. It's like, holy mackerel, these late night games that makes those bus trips back to Phoenix just late. But it is what it is. And
we're also the three of us old enough to remember a time before needing to have a strong opinion about every single sports topic online. That there was a time before the necessity to have a strong polarizing take on everything. I remember those days.
You're right. That's it. So, oh man. Well, gentlemen, good to hear you. You guys are back in the saddle again. It'll be a fun week. Looking forward to U of A basketball. Of course, the Pac-12. Am I correct? Did not carry the basketball game on TV, the exhibition game. And I'm kind of like, oh, come on, you guys. But that's the Pac-12. But hopefully, when is the next? Is the next game going to be
a week from today?
Regulars?
There's one more exhibition game a week from tonight.
Okay. So
and
chances are the Pac-12 won't even carry that.
The season opener is 2 weeks from today.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's this team's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. We got a lot of fun teams going on in Tucson, and that's a good thing. So, guys, bear down. Thanks again, and maybe I'll stop by on Saturday. See you guys. Talk to you later.
We look forward to
Thanks
it.
again, guys.
Paul in Phoenix. Appreciate the call. Getting you home every 20 minutes on the fives with your traffic and your weather. We can take calls. That is awesome. We got a new system here. That's right. We are moving up our stuff here to make it sound that much better for you. Here's somebody that sounds great. Her name is Cricket.
From the O'Reilly Chevrolet Traffic Center, this is Wildcats Radio 1290 Traffic and Weather Together. With reported collisions, Grant Road east of Tucson Boulevard, Stone and Roger with some eastbound slowing. Eastbound on Roger Road at Stone. Pedestrian struck Sarita Road east of Rancho Sarita Boulevard, Ina and Old Father, and also Alvernon and Drexel. 10% chance of rain this afternoon, 60 the low and clear overnight, 25% chance of rain and 79 tomorrow, breezy and 88 now. I'm Cricket with your Wildcats Radio 1290 Traffic and Weather Together.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Lowe's knows fall is the perfect time for outdoor projects. Right now, you can keep your yard looking its best and save. Take care of leaves with leaf blowers starting at just $89.98. Lowe's knows home improvement. While supplies last, see store for details.
David Kelly has taken the reins.
Jetfish is doing everything we asked him to do.
It's DK on the sports tip.
Kelly Bond set the 100 hurdles record and then broke it 2 more times.
Driving you home weekdays at 3 on Wildcats Radio 1290.
We return now to Eugene Snarkle, UberTube video star, and his best friend Doug.
Eugene, what happened to just buying a new set of tires at Jack Furrier's?
Way too easy, Doug.
Yes, Eugene. Jack Furrier's makes buying tires easy. So what's up with all the rubber cement and electrical tape? And why are you putting it all over your tires?
It's basic science, Doug. This Uber hack should give me another 6 months on these old treads and make me locally world famous on UberTubes.
So you'll be risking your life and your reputation.
Yes, Doug. It's all for my UberTube fans.
Well, could you at least wait a week before you try driving up Mount Lemon?
At Jack Furrier Tire and Auto Care, we make buying tires easy. Our local warehouse is filled with thousands of great options, all at one low price. If you need tires for your passenger car, truck, SUV, van, 4x4, RV, boat, or UTV, call us or go online to jackfurriers.com. Jack Furrier Tire and Auto Care. Since 1960, we're here to get you there.
Hi, I'm Henry Winkler. My eyes are very important to me. My eyes connect me with things I love. I loved my late father-in-law dearly. He always lit up a room, but his vision dimmed with age. He had age-related macular degeneration, or AMD. And since partnering with Apellis, I've learned there's an advanced form of the disease called geographic atrophy, or GA. His struggle with vision loss made me want to help others know about GA's warning signs. For some, straight lines seem wavy, like when looking at a door frame. For others, blurry or missing spots can make it hard to read or see loved ones' faces. Many have trouble seeing in low light, making driving at night difficult. GA gets worse over time.
Alvarado ready. Marino digs in. And a shot to left center. That's a hit. D-backs lead. Marino delivers in the clutch.
Here. Oh, man. I mean, the D-backs. They are still winning. In fact, they are growing this lead one run at a time. Ketel Marte, in fact, at a triple in the fifth, driving Corbin Carroll to make it 4-1. Marte, a single in the seventh, scored Luis Perdomo, and it is now 5-1 Arizona, middle of the seventh at the bank, Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. Diamondbacks trying to force a Game 7 of the National League Championship Series. All right, we were talking about Garrett, who works in our promotions department here. And he joins us, in fact, right now. How are you, Garrett?
I'm good.
Garrett was at game number 4.
Game 3.
Game 3, I'm sorry. Game 3 on Thursday night when the Diamondbacks walked it off. First of all, how did you get tickets to that game?
My mother.
Your mother?
Yep. She's the one that provided
Wow. Okay.
I always got to go when she does that.
Nice.
It was nice.
Nice. Yeah. So did you go with a group of friends or just what? It was just
nope, it was just me and her.
Wow.
And it was a good experience. I was nervous about being at a 2:00 game when it came out. I was like, what is the atmosphere going to be like?
Yeah.
Also, Philly fans are known to travel pretty well. So
I heard there
was
were a lot
nervous.
of them there.
Yeah, well, I thought there was going to be more, but the Diamondbacks fans showed out, and we shut it down.
So now you've been a Diamondbacks fan your entire life, right?
Oh, yeah.
Now you're how old now?
I am 27.
27. So
yeah.
you were born when?
96.
96. So you were born 2 years before they got here.
Yep.
But the Diamondbacks obviously were. Did you remember anything about the 2001 World Series at all?
Don't,
No.
and I hate it. I hate it. I'm like, I wish I did.
You've been like 5 years old.
Yeah,
right?
my parents were telling me I was excited. I was jumping up and down and celebrating with everybody, but I don't remember it at all.
So then you obviously, maybe by 2007, when that team came around, you were probably kind of really involved in. And so who were your guys growing up?
My favorite player was Chris Young growing up.
Chris Young,
yeah, center fielder. That was my
see.
position. So, and oddly enough, I ran into him at a concert in LA like a couple years ago, which was
Really?
crazy. Yeah, and I told him he was my favorite player growing up, and he was like, "What?" Like he never heard that before. Because usually it was like Justin Upton or like the All Star or whatever. But
CY. I like CY. That was kind of when I first, because I moved here in 2008, so that was just after that 07 year when all those guys were kind of becoming the core of those Diamondback teams through the late part of the aughts and into the 2000s. And 10. So how many? So did your parents, like your mom, like in your mom and your dad, were they baseball fans at all before baseball got here, or what was kind of their history?
My dad was a fan of baseball, but yeah, I guess like being young and the Diamondbacks were a brand new team to the state. That's just what I gravitated towards. You know, I guess like my first little league team was on the Phillies. Like we couldn't have a Arizona team to fall back on, so it had to be like you had to be the Phillies, the Yankees, the Red Sox, or something like that. But yeah, no traditions of family history of being Diamondbacks
So like
fans,
grandparents or nothing, did they have teams that they followed or watched?
The Braves, I think the Braves was one of them.
Okay,
but I'm not hopping on that wagon. I'm all about the Diamondbacks.
Neither are Braves fans because they rarely get a full stadium for postseason.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, that's interesting. It's interesting. That's always fun. And so that was had you been to a postseason game before? Or was that the first postseason game?
Yeah, I went to the last one I went to was the 2017 when they got swept by the Dodgers.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to the wild card game before
So
that
you were
though.
at the Rockies game.
Yeah,
How was that
one
game?
was crazy.
That was
the craziest moment I've ever been to see when
Archie
Bradley.
Bradley.
Yeah,
Archie
everyone
Bradley.
always brings that up because that was the most unlikeliest thing to ever happen.
I mean, about as unlikely as you'll ever see in the game of baseball, a pitcher getting a triple.
Yeah, it was amazing.
That guy was fun.
That place was going nuts.
He was fun to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, those were some teams. I mean, obviously, it's interesting because I was looking over the weekend, and I didn't realize that essentially I would think Ketel Marte might be the last guy from that team.
He is,
and it didn't seem. I was like, man, he's been around that long.
Yeah,
with the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah, he's the longest tenured D-back for sure, and he's carrying right now. His bat is hot. I don't know how much you guys have paid attention, but. You mentioned earlier he just drove in another run.
Yeah, 2 runs
right
in
now?
this game. Yeah,
jeez. Yeah, he's and he hit the walk-off on Game 3 that I was at.
He's a sign, and he's not. And it's interesting because I was telling somebody, I was like, when I realized that Marte is kind of the glue from the last playoff teams. He's not a very outspoken kind of guy, so you wouldn't necessarily see him as, quote, the star or the leader because he doesn't. He's kind of like a reserve guy. He's never really taken. He's always been a very solid player, but he's never really maybe taken that up front role on any of the teams that he's played on. So he's kind of just like a quiet star in this franchise, which is interesting because you would think that for a guy that's been here as long as he has. Started his career in Seattle, came to the Diamondbacks in that 2017 year. He was only 23 years old at the time. He'll be 30 next season. He might be a guy that more people gravitate to, but just a quiet leader, a guy that goes out and does his job.
You know what it takes is batting .372 in 10 games in the playoffs and leading your team to some wins.
Those are his numbers right now?
Yeah, that's his numbers. His OPS is 105. So that's
pretty good.
Above 1.
All right. So if they get through this, is Mom going to get tickets to the World Series?
I hope so. I'll bring it up. I'll definitely bring it up because you only get that shot of the Diamondbacks in the World Series for maybe another 20. Well, it's a young team though, so nobody expected them to make it this far.
There you go.
That's
you stop
true.
yourself from saying this is going to be the last time chance in a long time.
No shot.
You don't want to put that on them.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, Corbin Carroll or Alec Young? Which is I see you like center fielders. I played center field. I like center fielders. That's why I like Alec Young. Alec Young is my favorite.
He's a
player
dog out there. Yeah,
I love that guy.
He has one of the he's got to have a top 10 play this year when it was hit to like left or right center, and he did a full sprint speed, fully extended out and caught the ball. I can't remember. It was like towards the end of the year, but
I thought last year he should have won a Gold Glove. I mean, it seemed like
definitely.
every night he was making a play out there
he's
in
a hawk.
center field.
Yeah, he tracks everything down.
Love that guy. All right, Garrett, we might bring you back in to talk some baseball if this thing gets further, man.
Right on.
You got a pretty good knowledge.
Absolutely.
What was your batting average in high school in Marana?
My junior year, I struggled. I don't want to talk about that one. My senior year, I hit like
I might be able to go look it up on Max Preps. Don't.
Oh, no. You're going to caught me right-handed if I'm lying or anything. I definitely had a better year senior year. I was over 300. That's all.
Right.
That's what I know. But
there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Garrett Gillespie, y'all.
My favorite center fielder is probably one of DK, despite the fact you've been around baseball your whole life. Kenneth Lofton.
Oh, yeah.
Garrett is a guy who played basketball here in the 80s on the first Final Four team, but he was a center fielder for those tribe teams that went to, 3 World Series?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I mean, I think he's like 11th in steal, something like that. But after Kenny Lofton left the basketball program, didn't play baseball here, I became a baseball fan. That was right when Major League came out. Obviously, the Indians were here for spring training at the time. So, yeah, I mean, it was definitely Kenny Lofton was the guy.
So Kenny Lofton, if I'm not mistaken, Tony Clark did he actually play basketball?
He played basketball.
Did he actually get in any games?
My memory is that he led some conference in assists playing basketball. That's my memory of Tony Clark.
Okay, because that's another guy that has a basketball history here at Arizona that went on to become a multi All-Star in Major League Baseball. Was Tony Clark. Wow. The Wildcats have a few of those stories. Interestingly enough, guys that were on the basketball team that went on to play baseball. It's one of those kind of interesting sports. All right, Garrett, keep us up to date on what's happening in the game. We might bring you back in after the game is over.
Right on.
So keep us posted.
Cool.
Garrett Gillespie, ladies and gentlemen, Marana High School's own there.
Last time we heard from Garrett was when you guys were on the remote.
Yeah, we were.
The entire field was being destroyed in front of your eyes.
Exactly. Out at Marana High School. The monsoon August. That was crazy out there that night. Very crazy. 520-848-1290. 520-848-1290 is the number to get in on the program right now. Let's give you another quick update. It is still 5-1 now in the bottom of the 7th. What are we doing, pitching-wise here in this game? So Merrill Kelly went 5 innings, allowed a run on 3 hits. He had 8 strikeouts. Cousin Merrill was good today. Ryan Thompson and Andrew Salfranc have been on. Salfranc is on now, and Thompson, an inning and a third, allowed 2 hits, but scoreless inning and a third. So the bullpen is going to have to bring it home to get the Diamondbacks to Game 7 of the National League Championship Series. Going to be exciting. Could be a 7th game tomorrow at 9. That would be prime time. So that'd be probably a 5:07 first pitch tomorrow night. If we get to a Game 7. We do have another Game 7 tonight, the Texas Rangers and the Houston Astros. That game will start in about a half an hour in Houston. Houston trying to get back to the World Series. They won it last year. They are the defending champions. First time we've had an all-Texas American League Championship Series. The Rangers have won all 3 of their games on the road. The Astros have won all 3 of their games on the road. We still have to look that up, J-Dub, if that's ever happened. If Texas wins this series, you'll have a 7-game series where the road team won every game.
Crazy.
I would be hard-pressed to think that that's ever happened.
Let's just pretend like it's the first time ever because, I don't think that's it. That couldn't have ever happened before.
And they absolutely obliterated last night the Astros, getting a late grand slam to really blow it open and win big by a score of, I believe it was 9-2. 9-2 last night was the final in the game at Houston. And that's where we are right now. Game 7 of the American League Championship Series. The Astros and the Rangers. First pitch coming up in about half an hour. All right, we've got much more coming up. You're going to hear from Tommy Lloyd. You're going to hear from Jed Fish. Reggie Geary will join us in the 5 o'clock hour as well. We want to make sure that we get you home every 20 minutes on the 5s with your traffic and your weather. So let's turn it over to cricket.
From the O'Reilly Chevrolet Traffic Center, it's Wildcats Radio 1290 Traffic and Weather together. Collisions reported Ina and Camino de Oeste, Grant Road east of Tucson Boulevard, Sarita Road east of Rancho Sarita Boulevard, and also Ina and Old Father. River Road east of Stone Avenue, a reported fire. Expect fire crews on scene. 10% chance of rain this afternoon, 60 the low and clear overnight, 25% chance of rain, and 79 tomorrow. Breezy, 88 now. I'm Cricket with your Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together.
This report is sponsored by Discover. If you like using debit over credit, shouldn't you also get rewarded? Well, now you
Wildcats Radio 1290.
All right, let's try this again. New phone system. We have got the head coach of the Tucson Roadrunners, Steve Potvin. Steve, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
How are you?
Oh, awesome. Outstanding. We apologize for our mix-up the last time around. We got a new phone system, and it didn't quite work the first time around, but we appreciate you taking a few minutes to join us. I kind of led into the first time we had you on, the kind of the question being that through the first week, I would imagine the organization's got to be pretty pleased with the fact that you guys are off and have won 2 of your first 3 games down here in the American League, and that the parent club up in the National League is playing well to start this season. So there's got to be some good feeling in the organization right now.
Well, there's some good feelings, there's no doubt. But you know what? The state of our affairs over the last couple of years, we want to make sure that we're optimistic but cautious, and we're staying with our standards and trying to really just look for continuous improvement. You know, that's the biggest key. So, of course, we're happy we got off to a good start, but every cliche in the book will tell you that you can never be satisfied.
a little bit of a different kind of philosophy, and we've seen young goaltenders here in the past. Obviously, Aiden Hill came in here. He was a young guy on the way up, and played very well. And then we saw Ivan Prosvetov. He was a young guy on the way up, and it kind of stunk to have to lose him over to Colorado. But now you guys have got kind of a veteran guy in Matthew Valalta, who has come in here from another organization. What do you like about him and what he's been able to do early on in these first 3 games for you guys?
Well, you know what? He's a very personable kid. I think the first thing in the locker room, everybody really enjoys his presence. He's a good kid. Everybody wants to play for him. And he's just a guy that's just very calm in the net. He gives you that calm feeling that he's got the next shot. And you know what? When you have that behind you, you always feel that you can try to make the extra play, or you know what, if there's a shot that's coming in, guys are gonna want to block the shot for him because of his personality and the way he's been helping the team out. He's been one of the main reasons why we've been winning games, and so guys enjoy seeing him in the room, and guys want to play hard for him. So we've been happy to have him so far.
Now, obviously, you guys fell on Saturday 4-0. So what happens in a game like that? How much of what happened was what's happening in front of him, and maybe the defense not being as well with him playing at a high level? Is that kind of what happens in a game like that?
Well, you know what? I think it's kind of your first question. You come out to a good start, and everybody's talking about 2-0, and that starts to kind of resonate with you, and then you just fall back just a little bit, and then you know what? The stats will show when you're on the road and you start very well, and you come home. A lot of times you take a slight step backwards, and we're obviously aware of that, and now it's I think time to put the work boots back on and get back at it. I think guys were comfortable getting home, and sometimes that kind of leaks into your game.
Dylan Gunther is a guy that's obviously going to be dependent upon to kind of provide you some offense. How tough is it for a guy like that? I mean, he's one of the last cuts out of camp, and so he's coming down probably with some disappointment that he didn't stick and make the big league club for opening night. How do you approach those situations and kind of get those guys back in the right mindset for what they need to do to continue to develop now that they're back down here?
Yeah, you know what? He's received a clear message from the NHL staff up top, and he knows what which areas he needs to work on. But for us, we want to make sure that he doesn't put too much pressure on himself to get back up top. We want him to put the right amount of pressure and not stress. I think if you pressure yourself to play on the right side of the puck and do the right things and continue to work on your game, you're going to evolve and you're going to be able to get out of the league pretty quickly. But if you stress yourself to try to be maybe too offensive or generate too much offense, a lot of times that leads to poor performances. So we want him to focus and pressure himself on taking the next steps in his game, continue to build on the weaknesses that the staff has identified. And you know what? I think that's the best way to do it is just pressure yourself to put your mind towards the right aspects.
Steve Potvin joining us, the head coach of the Tucson Roadrunners. Kind of continuing with Dylan there, what are maybe one or two things that the organization is looking for him to work on?
Well, you know what? He's obviously a very offensive player, and he's got very high hockey IQ. We want him just to continue to grow his body and, you know what, maybe increase the pace of his play. And you know what? He's a very fast thinker. He thinks the game very well. But just increasing the pace of play and just building the strength in his body.
You mentioned that, and I'm sure you obviously are dealing with a lot of young guys that are coming up that maybe aren't at that physical part where you want them to get to. How do you guys manage that during the season? You know, the obviously on the ice part of it with the physical training that you guys do to make sure that you're growing some of these bodies the way that you want them to.
You know what? Our staff here does a good job. Parker Poor, he runs that department, and we've got a lot of science to back up his efforts and his knowledge. And so we attack it from both ways. And honestly, the way our schedule is with sometimes you have 4 days between games, you're able to really get those extra workouts in. And we're diligent about, getting the workouts after games wherever we can. And, it's up to the player to take the responsibility for, to keep up with his diet and make sure that he's doing the appropriate things to give his body the best chance to recover, but also maintain and build a little muscle. And so we've had success in the past with in that department, trying to build or at least remain, our strength at the same starting point that we started the season with, and that's a big thing here for our young guys, and we take it very seriously. And honestly, so far, the department's done a real nice job.
Roadrunners head coach Steve Potvin is our guest. Roadrunners have a day game happening on Tuesday. We'll get into that in a moment. It is field trip day over at Tucson Arena. There'll be a lot of kids in the house. You also named a captain this past weekend, Steve, another Steve, and Steven Kampfer. He's a veteran guy. Why was he the right guy for that role to wear the C?
Well, you know what? He's been around a long time. We're gonna lean on him for his experience. We want to. Every player wants to accomplish what he's accomplished. He's a former Stanley Cup champion, and you know what? That's something that we all want to get to, or somewhere we all want to get to. And so we're going to lean on him for advice. And he's a guy that understands what a good culture looks like, and what our behavior is going to dictate what our culture looks like. And we're gonna take his advice. We're going to lean in and make sure that we do the right things here.
You got a 13-year gap between your captain, Steve Kampfer, and one of your assistant captains in Ben McCartney. Do you like to have a younger guy in one of those secondary roles, someone that's, to develop as a young leader with this club?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all are leaders in some regard. We all have the ability to influence each other. And is a young man that, is a real hard-working player that can drag guys into the fight. And he's a kid that actually behaves the right way. He does all the right things off the ice, working out and taking care of his body, and he leads himself well when he's at the rink. So it's nice to always have somebody that's a little bit older that's gone through it to show you the way and give you some guidance. But you know what? This league is literally about trying to build leaders. And Ben's a young man that is going to evolve as a real strong leader one day. And today he's learning how to lead himself, and he definitely drags guys into the right areas and continues to develop himself and our guys.
And we mentioned hockey on Tuesday morning at the arena. Face-off at 10:30. It is field trip day. San Diego is in town now. Normally, Steve, you guys would kind of be showing up for the morning skate around that time. Is it the same type of mindset, or is it a whole different thing when you actually have to get out there and play a game at 10:30 in the morning?
It's a little different. It's a little different. Yeah, 100%. I think guys will just be taking the dust out of their eyes. So I think it's going to be a little bit different. We'll try to minimize how much we throw at them in the morning. I think they'll just be waking up. So it'll be a different environment, but it'll be a fun environment to be in front of and play. You know, every time we've been through these events, it's always been loud and boisterous, and you can really feel the energy in the building. So I know the guys are excited, and so are we.
It is the third of a 6-game homestand. You got a couple games coming up this weekend. Bakersfield will be in town, and then Chicago the following weekend, November the 3rd and November the 4th. So a nice little stretch here in Tucson to see your road runners. Say, Steve, we always appreciate your time, and best of luck with the 3 games coming up this week.
You're the man. Always a pleasure speaking with you. Thanks so much.
All right, Steve Potvant. He is the head coach of your Tucson Roadrunners. The Roadrunners are 2-1 to start the season. A couple of road wins down at the Texas Stars. Unfortunately, a loss to Coachella Valley over the weekend, 4-0. Coachella Valley was the team that knocked Tucson out of the postseason last year. So they're the newest team in this league, the second year Coachella Valley Firebirds. And so Bakersfield will come in this weekend, followed by our rare chance to see a team from the Midwest in Chicago. So the Wolves will come to town. They are the AAA or top affiliate of the Blackhawks as well. So get on out there tomorrow. An opportunity to see hockey at 10:30 in the morning, and then regular scheduled 7 o'clock games coming up on Friday and Saturday. I know you'll be out there at 10:30 in the morning, right, J-Dub?
I'll be here. I'll be here doing the prep for football.
Yeah, football, because we are back with football this week. The 11th ranked Beavers are coming to town.
I do have some breaking news.
Ooh, breaking news.
Yesterday, a certain former Arizona Wildcat basketball player who plays in Denver, he got a new contract. And today, just now, a certain former U of A basketball player who plays in Dallas just got a new contract. So we might have to get into that.
So Josh Green and Aaron Gordon, I would imagine? Or
Najee. Your guy, Zeke Najee.
That's right. Those guys are...
You want the numbers real quick?
Yeah, we can do those real quick.
So 4 years, $32 million is Zeke's new contract.
All right.
Previously, it was that's $8 million a year. Previously, it was 4.5. So it's basically doubled his salary. Josh Green, 3 years, $41 million. DK.
Wow, so he's over 10.
Yes, and not only that, but this makes Josh Green the 4th highest paid player on the roster. So they've got Luka at $40 million a year. That's a lot. Kyrie at $37 a year, and then the third currently is Tim Hardaway Jr., and he's at about $18. So this would put Josh Green at about $14 million a year.
Well, that's one of the things we were talking about last year, and in terms of Zeke, in particular, like maybe what his future was with that organization, and it sounds like it's a pretty good future if they're wrapping him up at those numbers. But I think the biggest thing that kind of, and we were talking about Andre Iguodala last week, and the fact that he's the highest paid Wildcat ever at $188 million. And then I looked at the numbers. I think already 4th on the list is Ayton.
Yeah.
Because his contract went from
crazy.
like $4 million to $30 million.
Well, there's an escalating percentage based on where you were picked. So if you get picked number 1, then your second contract can be that much bigger. Then there's stipulations for Supermax if you made an All-NBA team and those kind of things. There was a huge spike at one point about 20 years ago in salaries. So it's no surprise to me that Andre Iguodala, who played the last 19 years in the NBA and just retired, is the highest earning salary earner for Arizona history just because of the time that he played in.
Yeah. Ayton is not last year, the year before last, made 12.6. Last year, he made $31 million. He went from 12.6 to $31 million. This year, he'll make 32.4. Followed by 34 next year, and then 35.5 the year after that.
I don't know how the Nuggets are going to do this. They got Jokic at 47, Murray at 33, Michael Porter Jr. at 33, Aaron Gordon at 22, and KCP at $15 million. So they have 5 players earning over $15 million a year on their current roster.
Wow.
And Nikola Jokic has the biggest contract, or he did.
Do they have the luxury tax? Do they have that in basketball?
Well, man, they got a new system just installed this summer where if you go over the threshold 2 consecutive seasons, you can actually lose the ability to sign free agents. So it's a little bit convoluted, but they're trying to bring the playing field down to a little more even. After Lakem and those guys in Golden State were just spending 3 times whatever the salary cap was over that stretch, they're trying to bring it back to some normalcy, but everybody's kind of scrambling to figure out how to do that right now because some of these contracts just got signed in the last 4 or 5 years before these new rules went into place.
All right, Kevin Ginkel is in the game, and it looks though he just gave up a base hit. He looked like he was going to get out of it pretty unscathed, but 5-1 Diamondbacks. We'll have much more on that in the next hour. Reggie Geary is going to join us. Also, I do have Garrett Gillespie's stats from high school.
Awesome.
He was underplaying himself a little bit, just a little bit. We'll talk about that in the next hour. This is DK on the Sports Tip, and with J-Dub, I'm David Kelly. You're listening to Wildcats Radio 1290.
From the O'Reilly Chevrolet Traffic Center, it's Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together. River Road east of Stone Avenue, that was an earlier reported fire. You might still see fire crews on scene. Collisions clearing 1st and Glen and 1st Avenue. Ina and Camino de Oeste also reported. 60, the low and clear overnight tonight. 25% chance of rain and 79 tomorrow. 88 now, 10% chance of rain this afternoon and breezy. I'm Cricket with your Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together.
This report is sponsored by GeneratorFranchise.com. Millions protect their homes from power outages with Generac home standby generators. Would you like to be part of this lucrative industry? Generator Supercenter, the nation's #1 Generac generator dealer, has limited franchise opportunities in your area. Learn more at GeneratorFranchise.com.
This is Jim Rome with your Rome Report. How awesome is it that we got exactly what we were hoping for at last night's best matchup of the NFL season? Eagles-Dolphins. Yeah, no, wasn't that great. In fact, it didn't have an epic ending, and neither MVP candidate quarterback played their best game. But of course, that's not why we tuned in, right? We all got exactly what we tuned in for. The Ref Show. Nobody really cared about the Dolphins v. Eagles, but Dolphins v. Eagles and Zebras. Now that's the stuff right there. The last thing I want to do is start the week by talking about the Ref Show again. But 10 Dolphin penalties to 0 Eagle penalties. Seriously, what kind of clown show is that? I mean, is James Bradbury's hand still stuck in Cedric Wilson's face mask? Clean it up, Zebras.
O'Reilly. Protect your vehicle's engine with Syntec and O'Reilly Auto Parts. Syntec Premium Full Synthetic Motor Oil is formulated for today's engines to dissipate heat and friction and reduce wear. Get 5 quarts of Syntec Full Synthetic and a MicroGuard Select filter for just $33.99. Limit supply. See store for details. Get Syntec only at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. Wendy's new breakfast 2 for $3 Biggie Bundles let you create your own delicious combo. Choose from a sausage biscuit, egg and cheese biscuit, small seasoned potatoes, and a medium hot coffee. But it's obvious which combo's the best. Sausage biscuit and small seasoned potatoes. Well, maybe it's the fresh cracked egg and cheese biscuit with a medium hot coffee. Or 2 savory sausage biscuits. Whichever you pick, you can't go wrong. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's new 2 for $3 Biggie Bundles.
Limited time only. U.S. price and participation may vary. Not valid in a combo. Single item at regular price.
3 little words no parent wants to hear.
My tummy hurts.
And it always seems to happen at the worst times. Like in the middle of the morning rush, when you still have homework to check and lunches to pack, and of course, you're already late for work. Luckily, there's Pepto Kids. Pepto Kids gummies help relieve occasional stomach upsets. turning those 3 words into these 3 words.
I feel better.
Bad time for stomach upsets? Good time for Pepto Kids Gummies. Fast support for little tummies.
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Now's the time to get your place ready for company with up to 40% off select online bath at the Home Depot, because the holidays are coming to town. And so are your friends, your family, and their friends and family. So let the Home Depot help get your bathroom guest ready with the Tabana Vanity and the matte black Oswell faucet from Glacier Bay. For more storage and a new modern look, refresh your space with up to 40% off select online bath. Plus, get free delivery on all online vanities and faucets from the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
We get you so close to the action at McHale, it feels like Wilbur and Wilma are in the car with you. James David Scott Kelly.
Bottom of the 8th in Philadelphia. Actually, I'm sorry, top of the 9th in Philadelphia. Diamondbacks holding on to a 5-1 lead. Kevin Ginkel came on, pitched a scoreless 8th. The Arizona Wildcat, circa 2016. D-backs now batting in the top of the 9th. I would imagine Paul Sewald in the bottom of the 9th to try to get the 3 outs that will be necessary for a Game 7 to decide who wins the National League pennant. D-backs currently up 5-1 in Philadelphia. DK on the sports tip. I'm David Kelly, joined by J.W. Madden. Cricket as well. 9th inning at the top has come to an end. So we go to the last of the 9th in Philadelphia. JT Realmuto, Nick Castellanos, Brandon Marsh will be the scheduled hitters for the Philadelphia Phillies, trying to stay alive here in Game 6 of the National League Championship Series.
Brandon Marsh would be a little faster if he didn't have that NHL postseason beard going on.
There were like people in the stands that were wearing that getup.
That's a lumberjack beard he's got going on.
You know, I told you kind of how my wife has she was watching the quarterback and became a real big Kirk Cousins fan. Right. So she's been watching this series, and now she wants to be a fan of the Phillies because she's just really in love with like kind of the way that the Phillies fans vibe. And it goes back to kind of what I was saying earlier in the show. It's what the fandom you see, and yes, there's a difference There's a difference, I think, from what you see from Philadelphia fans and what you see from Diamondback fans. And that's not to say that Diamondback fans are bad. It's not to say that they're not passionate. It's just it's a different vibe.
Well, that's the word. How do you define passion, right? Because the passion of a person who's a ninth-generation Phillies fan because they grew up in the area and their family's been around the area for a long time, and the Phillies have been there since the late 1800s, the difference in passion, that's generational passion.
Exactly.
Where you're talking about the first time I ever had a ball thrown and tried to hit at it was my grandpa, and it was a ball that had Phillies on it and so forth and so on. The difference there is obviously Garrett, who we just had in, he grew up with the Diamondbacks, and he can, and anybody moving forward, you can develop that level of passion for the franchise. But when it's a relatively new situation, like all the cities out west, for the most part, I mean, even look at the teams that are in California.
Yeah.
They all came from somewhere else, right? So, I mean, don't get me wrong, the Dodgers and the Giants have done things in California since they got out there, but they came there, DK, with quite the reputation and quite the fan base before they ever got to California.
So, yeah, my wife wants to be a Phillies fan now. So I guess, I don't know, if the Phillies win this, we'll probably root for the Phillies in the World Series.
Does she like the eye black?
She didn't mention that. She didn't mention the eye black. She just likes the passion of the they sing the song. I don't know if Bryson Stott comes up to the plate and they play this song. I don't even remember the name of it. It's like A-OK or something.
Right.
Tay Verdes, I think, is the guy that sings it. And so they play that, and the crowd sings the main verse from the song. She loves that because everybody's singing this guy's song. Just kind of the way that they interact with their players is very Cleveland to us because it's kind of how we act with our team.
Back to the generational thing. I think it's easy for generational fans to be happy or sad or whatever, but you also embrace that particular year and that particular team.
Yeah.
I'll go fold that into my experience with Arizona basketball. Growing up 70s, 80s, 90s, I was at every game. When Steve Kerr made a shot, David Kelly, the entire McHale crowd chanted in unison Steve Kerr after he made the shot. And there was a love there. There's a passion there for wanting to see the success of the athlete. So there's something to be said about a fan base like the Phillies who's already established 100-year plus, 125 years, already established, and then they have a team that's likable and rootable and all of that. And that's what you're seeing, the combination of those two things.
Well, and what you just said there, that was my first lasting impression of Arizona basketball when I first stepped foot in McHale Center as a college sophomore as a manager for USC in 1987. Was the crowd doing just what you said, yelling Steve Kerr's name when the PA announcer would say that. I mean, that you walk away with that and it's like, wow, these are people that really understand what it means to get behind their team.
I remember that year that the Trojans did not have much success against the Wildcats. I think it was like 42 was the margin because Arizona beat everybody in the conference.
Thanks for reminding me.
No, I'm not reminding you. I'm just reminding the people. The 87-88 team, they were 17-1, I think. But I remember specifically the Trojans, for some reason, the two games they played against them were both 40-plus point wins. Yeah.
Yeah, it was not pretty.
Right before Baby Jordan got there.
It was not pretty. Yep, and things got a little bit better when Baby Jordan got there. Paul Sewald has 2 outs in the 9th. He needed just 3 pitches to get Castellanos, and now Brandon Marsh is the last thing standing between the Diamondbacks in Game 7.
I don't know the backstory, but is the fact that his last name is Marsh and he's trying to look like kind of like a marsh creature or something?
I don't know.
What?
Well, I kind of call him Cousin Brandon because we have some Marshes in our family,
right?
And they grew up in Philadelphia, so that's my dad's side as well. So yeah, I got Cousin Brandon on the Phillies, and I got Cousin Merrill Kelly on the Diamondback side. We got Kellys and Marshes in our family from our Philadelphia.
All
family
my cousins are coaches.
Wait, coaches?
Yeah, Coach
that's
Madden.
Their name? Oh, coaches. Coach Madden.
All the Madden coaches.
There you go. So I did find Garrett's stats. Garrett Gillespie, who we had on our show, He's what is Garrett's title?
He is the head of productions, co-head, I believe. I'm not sure the actual official
production
title.
or promotions.
Promotions, yeah.
Promotions.
I'm sorry, promotions.
Okay, so he's the head of promotions. Garrett was a baseball player at Marana High School. He was on. He actually played 3 seasons on varsity. He said he didn't. He said his junior year wasn't that good. He hit 286.
It's not bad.
No. Now his sophomore season wasn't that good. He hit 083 as a sophomore. But I mean, that's a sophomore in varsity. The fact that you're even on varsity as a sophomore
That
is
sounds
pretty
like
impressive.
one of those 1 for 11 seasons.
Yeah, it was 1 for 12 to be exact.
Yeah, there you go. So I mean, it's not a lot of at bats, is what I'm saying.
I think that was my junior season on varsity. I think I went I don't actually. My junior season, I did not get a single hit. I think I went 0 for 16. But then his senior year, Garrett hit 392 for the Marana Tigers in 2015. So Garrett is pretty impressive there. All right, the Diamondbacks have won. They have beaten the Philadelphia Phillies by a score of 5-1. So there will be a Game 7 in the National League Championship Series. The Snakes go to Philadelphia, where they had gotten pretty much beaten up in the first 2 games, and they get the win tonight. 5-1 is the final. It'll be Arizona and Philadelphia in Game 7 on Tuesday night for the right to go to the World Series. The Diamondbacks trying to get to their first World Series since 2001 when they won it in Game 7.
No disrespect, TK, but I'm kind of shocked at this run. After we really started taking a deep dive into the bullpen and how many leads they were blowing and whatnot 4 months ago, did you expect the Diamondbacks to be a win away from the World Series?
No, not at all. Not in the least.
The young guys the bats have really
expect this.
A lot of really timely hits in these last 3 weeks from the younger guys.
I mean, it's been good. It's been entirely fun to watch, and I'm glad. One of the first things that I decided to do when we started this thing in June was I said we're going to do something on the Diamondbacks every day, and make that a priority. And here we are on October the 23rd at 5:12 in the afternoon, talking about Game 7 for a chance to win the National League pennant. Are you excited about the Diamondbacks cricket?
That sounds amazing. A pennant? Yes.
The pennant?
Yes.
You know about the pennant?
No, but I'm learning.
Did you have any pennants
No.
when you were growing up?
I don't think so.
Of any kind?
I don't think so.
A pennant's like a flag, but it's a
flag.
triangle.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's like a
okay.
triangle flag
Oh, super cool.
that you would pin up on your wall.
Maybe.
And it
Did you
says
have one?
Tucson's best dog walker.
Dogs, yeah.
You had one that said Catalina High School, maybe? No?
I probably
No.
had one that maybe said something like Disneyland or
Disneyland.
something
You might
like
have
that.
had a Disneyland
Maybe.
pennant. That's
Okay.
fine, as long as you had a pennant of some sort.
I think I did.
In your bedroom growing up. So I want to so tell me what cricket. We'll start there.
Okay.
In our 2 minutes here. What did cricket have on her wall growing up?
Can I guess?
Okay.
I think
Yes.
Warrant poster.
Warrant?
And, Warrant for sure.
Warrant was the
80s. Yeah, that was
okay.
mid 80s, right?
All
So
right.
we're talking about teenage years.
Yeah. What like time period are you?
Like 15 or 14 to 17.
David Bowie for sure, and
the Police,
Warrant, and that's all I got.
You're
Okay.
close.
All right.
Motley Crue.
Motley Crue.
So you're kind of close with Warrant. You
It's
know,
in the Warrant
hair.
family, sure,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. In the Warrant family for sure. Prince. Probably Madonna. I thought Madonna was pretty
Prince.
cool.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yes.
I should have known Prince.
Madonna. So now we found out the last time. Oh, I lost the television. We found out the last time that you're named Cricket because now that was your grandmother again.
My mom.
Your mom.
Yes.
That was her favorite soap actress, Young and the Restless. So did you actually watch it?
I did.
You did.
I did. I really did get into it. And like you were talking about, like your grandpa watching it.
No,
grandma.
it was my dad.
Oh, your dad. I'm
My
sorry.
dad.
It was my grandma liked it, and also she couldn't get understand the VCR, so I would sometimes go over and then just like put it on, whatever. You set the VCR
Right.
for the whole week, and she would be so excited, and then she could fast forward through the commercials, and So my grandma was like into that.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a grandma question then.
Okay.
What did your grandmother, did she have a term she used for soap operas? I want to see, because my grandmother had a term.
Oh, really?
That she used for soap operas that wasn't the word soap opera.
I think my grandma just called them soaps.
Soaps.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about
my grandmother called them stories.
Oh, okay.
She was like, I got to watch my stories.
Yeah.
Your stories. Well, it makes it sound so much more like maybe educational or, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Far from educational.
Right. But it makes it sound more like educational. You sound more sophisticated.
I don't know. But
he watches stories.
She would call it her stories. Like, I got to watch she watched The Doctors, which was on NBC way back in the day.
Oh, right.
That was one of the ones that she watched. And so I would watch The Doctors with her growing up. And then my cousin, who's like a year younger than me, he got addicted to General Hospital.
Okay.
And this was back during the Luke and Laura and all of that craziness back in, I don't know if you're familiar with General Hospital at all.
Was that the time of like Rick Springfield or
yes.
no? Okay.
Yeah, he was there. Yeah, Rick Springfield was on the show. I forget Dr.
Noah Drake.
Drake, thank you. Well, see, you watched it more than I did. I can't remember.
Well, just for Rick Springfield.
He was on your wall too,
He
right?
was cool, yeah.
And I have Jesse's girl. Yes. So we would play. We'd go out and we'd play baseball. We're back in the East where General Hospital came on at 3:00. So we'd go out and play baseball from 11 a.m. till 3:00. And then we'd have to go in and watch General. He would drag me inside and we would watch General Hospital from 3 to 4. And then we'd go back outside and play baseball or tennis for the rest of the night. But that 1 hour every day during the summer, these was, again, going back to my summers in Philadelphia. This was actually in South Jersey at this point because he lived in South Jersey. But we would have to stop whatever we were doing at 3:00 and go in and watch General Hospital.
Did you enjoy that?
It was, I watched it all that summer, and so I started watching. I was like, okay, cool. They had some cool mafia-like storylines and that kind of thing, which, boys like the mafia.
Great acting, too. The acting was just spectacular.
It was spectacular, So good stuff. Good stuff from the 70s.
Stories.
All right. Stories. That's right. Ask, is your grandmother, she's still living or no?
No, she is not.
She's not living. Okay. All right. So we can't ask her if she watched the stories, but ask your mom if she ever used that term.
Stories.
Yes.
Okay, I will.
All right. Getting you home every 20 minutes on the fives with your traffic and your weather is Cricket.
And from the O'Reilly Chevrolet Traffic Center, it's Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together. Crashes clearing First Avenue and Glen, Cortero west of I-10, Cortero and Arizona Pavilions Drive. Also, Ina and Camino de Oeste. Road work for another week on Aerospace Parkway between Nogales Highway and Alvernon. We've got 60 as the low and clear overnight, 25% chance of showers, and 79 tomorrow. 85 and breezy now. I'm Cricket with your Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together.
Fall is the perfect time for outdoor projects. Right now, you can keep your yard looking. Lowe's knows home improvement.
on Wildcats Radio 1290.
Diamondbacks advance to Game 7 of the National League Championship Series with a 5-1 win over the Philadelphia Phillies tonight in Philadelphia. 5 runs, 10 hits, no errors for the D-backs. 1 run, 6 hits, 1 error for the Phillies. Merrill Kelly gets the win. He's now 2-1 in the postseason. Aaron Nola, the Diamondbacks beat the Phillies' best pitcher. He gets the loss. He is now 3-1. Ketel Marte had a big ball game, knocked in 2 big runs. Diamondbacks also got home runs in this game from Tommy Pham and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. To provide for their runs. All right, let's talk some baseball. As a matter of fact, this young man used to call games right here in Tucson for the Tucson Padres back in the day. They have moved on to become the El Paso Chihuahuas. His name is Tim Haggerty. Tim, welcome back to the Tucson Airways.
Oh, thank you, David. Love living in Tucson and great to be back on the airwaves.
So let me just, first of all, we were just talking Diamondbacks. I want to get your thoughts on what we're seeing here in Major League Baseball right now. A pair of Game 7s to decide the 2 teams that are going to the World Series. It does not get better than that.
No, I think it's been so exciting. And for the Diamondbacks, I mean, to me, that's just the blueprint that so many teams are striving for. They have these young, exciting players that they drafted, that they acquired, and they're playing these postseason games in front of massive sellout crowds. It's really exciting in the AAA world. I think back the past couple of years, and I've seen Alec Thomas play and Corbin Carroll play. Many of those Diamondbacks pitchers saw them play, and it's remarkable the run that they're on. And I don't know about you guys, but I find myself enjoying these Major League playoffs more than any time in the past handful of years because I think the pace of play rules are just an A+. I think MLB has done many things over the past decade. Some of them you might not grade an A+, but this, I think it is. They took their time. They really experimented in the minor leagues. And to me, baseball is back to normal now with its pace.
Now, Tim, you obviously have been around baseball for much of your adult life. You spent the better part of 3+ seasons here in Tucson calling games for the Padres. You started with the club when they were in Portland, and then, of course, they relocated down here for the time that the Padres AAA affiliate was here. Now, you guys, how long have you been over in El Paso now? It's about 7, 8, 10 years? How long has it been?
Yeah, 10 years. The Tucson Padres were 2011 through 2013. I remain good friends with Mike and Patty Fader, who do such a great work for the Tucson sports community. And, yeah, the El Paso Chihuahuas' first season was in 2014 after relocating from Tucson.
So now you wrote a book. When did you decide you wanted to become a writer?
Well, in addition to broadcasting games, I've always loved baseball history and baseball research, and it was actually back in Tucson in 2012. I was looking up something else in a newspaper archive, and I came across this story from a Texas League game in Austin that got delayed when a wild bull ran on the field. And, David, I know you've broadcast a lot of baseball, as have I. We do this type of thing for a living, and I had never heard that story before. So it just made me realize there's so many minor league baseball stories that a lot of sports fans don't know about. So, yeah, my new book, Tales from the Dugout, has 1,001 minor league stories from the past and the present.
So let's kind of talk about some of the things from Tucson that kind of made their way into this book. And it's interesting. You kind of mentioned, obviously, minor league baseball. And one of the things I also want to know is how many of these stories came off the bus rides the many bus rides and plane flights that you've been on throughout your career.
Yeah, so it's 1,001 quick stories. There's many cartoonish illustrations as well. I'd say out of the 1,001, about 20 or 25 are from games that I covered or moments that I saw, players that I was around. For the other ones, I did various interviews with scouts, managers, coaches, and for the older stories, went through newspaper archives. I went to the Baseball Hall of Fame Library in Cooperstown. They have great resources there. And over the course of 2012 through 2022, just compiled this document. It was an ongoing project for that long. And I know you asked about the Tucson stories. Here's a great one from Tucson baseball history. In 1932, The team was named the Tucson Lizards. Sadly, none of your listeners remember the Tucson Lizards. I don't think the math is going to work out on that. But in 1932, the Tucson Lizards, and this outfielder runs onto the field, takes his position in the outfield, and sees a massive rattlesnake. I mean, this thing is thick. So some of us have been in this situation before. We know how scary this can be. He raced back to the dugout, grabbed the bat, went back into the outfield, whacked the rattlesnake, and then the game continued.
Wow. Where did you get that from?
That was from Baseball Digest Archives. Baseball Digest, which continues to be an active baseball magazine, they go all the way back to the 1940s, and they had this great segment where they would interview players and just say, what's the craziest thing that ever happened to you on a ball field? And the great news is, dating all the way back to the 40s, their archives are available online. So when I was sitting there in a hotel or on an off-season weekend, I'd flip through and I'd make a note. I'd dig in some more. And to me, that type of thing is just gold. That's always been my favorite part about baseball, is the stories.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing better than, I mean, when you talk about, I mean, like you said, you've probably been doing this now for 15 plus years, and just the number of ball players that you come in contact with working in the minor leagues, and all of them have some type of story, and just finding and weaving the ones that just work into a book. Now, you wrote one book, and then did you just have so much that the plan was always, well, I got enough to write a second book?
Well, my first book is about the craziest team names in minor league baseball history. That came out in 2012. So as far as how many stories and potential of a second book, I really tried to have a high threshold for what made it into this book. I know 1001 is a big number, but when you talk about baseball going all the way back to the 1870s and how many games there are per season, there's just so many baseball stories out there. So I really tried to have a high bar. I compiled about 1,100 stories for this book and didn't really know what the final number should be. And one day I walked by my wife's cookbook and it said 1001 recipes.
Yeah.
And I thought 1001, I like that number. So that's how I picked it. So then from there, I kind of whittled some down. And for example, I had a story in there for an umpire in 1907 got arrested for using foul language on the field. Ooh. And then in the 1930s, there was a player who got arrested for using foul language on the field. And by the way, I'm saying arrested, not ejected. These guys actually were cited by police. So those two stories became one. That's how I narrowed them down.
Now, and I understand there were some players that got traded for food.
Yes, love the trades, and there's been some bizarre ones over the years. In 1931, Chattanooga had this eccentric owner named Joe Angelo who would do anything to get headlines, and he traded his shortstop for a turkey. And then he served the turkey at a banquet, and the media asked him, why did you trade your player for a turkey? And he said the turkey was having a better year.
Tim Haggerty, the voice of the El Paso Chihuahuas, formerly of the Tucson Padres, joining us. He has written a fabulous book, Tales from the Dugout, 1001 humorous, inspirational, wild anecdotes from minor league baseball. Now, are there any, you mentioned the old-time Tucson. Is there anything specific to your years in Tucson?
Well, I'm trying to think. There was a wild game we had in 2013. The Tucson Padres were at Colorado Springs, and not only was it 40 degrees, but there was 60-mile-an-hour winds.
Wow.
And these conditions developed in the fourth inning. And as you know, it's a baseball rule. You have to get 5 innings before it becomes official. These umpires were doing whatever it took to get through that 5th inning and make this an official game. The Colorado Springs second baseman, Tim Wheeler, the wind was so strong that it blew the second baseman's cap off of his head, and the cap hit the right field wall before another player touched it. So we talk about the crazy weather conditions that took place in Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs, as you know from calling Pacific Coast League games, they would advertise the fact that they were the highest elevated park in North America, and there were some wild happenings in that park. A player, Jordan Pacheco, hit a broken bat home run in the high elevation of Colorado Springs.
That is unbelievable. It blew it all the way to the outfield wall before anybody could get to it. That's a classic right there for sure. Tim, how can people get your book?
Again, it's called Tales from the Dugout, 1001 Humorous, Inspirational, and Wild Anecdotes from Minor League Baseball. It's available on a discount on Amazon right now, and it's also available in some bookstores.
Outstanding. So are we planning anything? You've written now about crazy names. You've written about stories. Is there a third book potentially in the offing?
Well, my first book came out in 2012. This one came out in 2023, so maybe once a decade or so.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
No plans for a new book. For now, I've just really enjoyed, going on shows like yours, David, telling some of these stories, and it's been really fun to see the reception. A lot of people are buying the book as gifts. And it's been really exciting that people like it.
Well, my favorite story involving the Tucson Padres is that this was the last place that Mike Trout played before he became a big leaguer.
That's right, 2012, and the T-Pods played a lot against Trout that year, both a series in Salt Lake and in Tucson, and he was Rookie of the Year that year.
Yeah. Something to behold and to see where he is right now. It's going to be interesting to see if his career continues in Los Angeles or if it happens to be somewhere else next year. Who are you picking to win the World Series real quick, Tim?
It's just amazing what the Texas Rangers are doing. They have not lost a road game.
Yeah.
And if they win, they would be the home team in the World Series, so I would pick them.
There you go, the Texas Rangers. Have we ever, just off the top, we were asking this question earlier, I don't know if you know the answer to it off the top of your head. Do you know if there's ever been a 7-game series where the road team won every game?
The 2019 World Series, Washington did that. Washington won 4 road games in Houston. I believe that's true.
Now, that was a 7-game series?
That went all 7 games.
Okay.
That's right. So Houston, I believe Houston won 3 games in Washington, but then lost all 4 of their home games.
Wow. Well, there you go. I knew you would know the answer to that, Tim. Tim Haggerty. Tim, continued success and keep striving to get to the big leagues.
Well, thank you. Great to talk to you again, David. I've always thought very highly of you.
All right. Tim Haggerty. He is the voice of the El Paso Chihuahuas, formerly the Tucson Padres. Getting you home every 20 minutes on the 5s with your traffic and your weather. Here's Cricket.
From the O'Reilly Chevrolet Traffic Center, it's Wildcats Radio 1290 Traffic and Weather Together, sponsored by O'Reilly Chevrolet. Earlier collisions first in Glen and First Avenue, also Cortero west of I-10, Cortero and Arizona Pavilions Drive. Busy traffic, Ajo and Mission, westbound Speedway at I-10 and southbound Campbell approaching and passing Fort Lowell. And for our weather, 60 our low, clear overnight, 25% chance of showers, and 79 tomorrow. Breezy, 85 now. I'm Cricket with your Wildcats Radio 1290 Traffic and Weather Together.
This report is sponsored by Pfizer.
on Wildcats Radio 1290. It's the 5 o'clock hour, and it's time for our Arizona Insiders.
Am I late? No, my boy, you're just in time.
Each weekday, Wildcats Radio 1290 brings you all the latest news and opinions on U of A football and the Pac-12. So bear down, Tucson. Our Arizona Insiders are brought to you by Coors Light, official corporate sponsors of Arizona Athletics. There's nothing like game day at Arizona.
All right, we're going to talk some Arizona basketball instead of Arizona football. In our Arizona Insider segment today, we are joined by, the dial tone, man. We are joined by Reggie Geary. Reggie is the analyst, one of the analysts for the Arizona Wildcats radio network, as well as a former guard for the program. Reggie, can you hear me?
I can, David. Can you hear me?
I can, absolutely. We have a new phone system happening here today, so not everybody could hear us earlier in the show, but it appears that we are good now. Interesting dynamic. Friday night, there was no Pac-12 network broadcast for the contest, so you and Brian and Ryan kind of took it on as the trio to call the folks that were watching this game on the live stream. How did that work out between the three of you guys to have a chance to watch this first inclination of not Jed, but Tommy Lloyd's third team?
Yeah, I thought. It was an exhibition game, and Brian Jeffries came to Rhino and myself and said, hey, let's make this a three-man crew and just have some fun with it. And it was a lot of fun. It was the first time I've ever had an opportunity to work with, a three-man team, and it was a power trio. So Brian was in the middle, and Ryan and I were kind of popping in, but it was a ton of fun. And obviously, it being the first game for the Cats, that exhibition game, was just excited to see the new team.
All right, so you are largely believed, Reggie, to be the best defensive player to ever wear an Arizona Wildcats uniform. And there's been a lot of talk this preseason about young freshman KJ Lewis and his defensive ability. So what stands out to you in what you've seen defensively from KJ early in this campaign?
Yeah, KJ is an impressive freshman. Obviously, he passes the eye test. When you look at the kid, he does not look like a freshman. He is athletic. He came in very muscular. He's just a great athlete, and he has that tenacity that you're looking for in a defensive player. And he's really stood out and giving himself a chance here by just getting hands on ball. And then once he's able to, get a steal or a deflection, he's such a good athlete in the open court. He can finish off plays. So he's just a dynamic player. And I know defensively he's someone who could really garner some minutes there.
It's interesting. One of the things that Tommy said early that I liked about this young man was he said that he can make up for mistakes with effort defensively. Are there a lot of players that can do that?
Every player can do that. That's the one thing that's great about defense is that, offensively, yeah, you need, some touch and feel and some skill set and be able to shoot and dribble. But defensively, obviously to be a great defender, it takes, some tenacity and, in my mind, a high basketball IQ in terms of understanding of fundamentals and positioning. But just in terms of overall effort, the defensive end is the effort, is the part of the ball where you can play 100%. You can't play 100 miles an hour on offense. You got to slow down and read and react, take your time. But defensively, you really can play, harder. So I think everyone is capable of doing that, but not everybody realizes that, I don't think.
Reggie Geary is joining us, U of A guard, 1996. And Reggie works as an analyst, does most of the road games for the Arizona Wildcats radio network with Brian Jeffries on the call. He had a chance to see the Wildcats Friday night in their 110-70 win over Lewis Clark State. He comes your way of courtesy of Coors Light. Coors Light is an official corporate sponsor of Arizona Athletics. Coors Light, there's nothing like game day at Arizona. Reggie, when you in terms of these three transfers, and we asked this question to our audience on Friday, who we thought would be the most impactful of the three, set by a large margin. 72% said they believe it's going to be Keshad Johnson. Why do you think he'll be the kind of player that can have an immediate impact on this Wildcats team?
Well, first of all, Keshad, Just starting with him, he's an excellent athlete. He's dynamic. He has the ability to finish above the rim, and he had a big alley-oop reverse dunk last game. A friend of mine, compared it to Aaron Gordon in terms of his explosiveness and what he can do around the rim, and I think that's what has people excited. I don't know how much he's going to stretch the floor with the three ball, but I know in transition, you saw him on the low post there in the exhibition game, so he can play down low. He does have the ability to shoot the basketball 100%, but I just think it's his athleticism and being as dynamic he is that, I think on a game-to-game basis, he might be one of the most consistent transfers we get going into the season.
You look at, when you talk about stretching the floor, you kind of look at just the numbers from this particular game, and obviously a small sample size against a much smaller program. But I know that one of the things that a lot of people are asking is who's going to be the shooter on this team? Is there a guy that's going to develop that? We know that Caleb is a guy that can shoot from distance, but is he going to be that shooter? I mean, Caleb is a guy that can also create his own shot on the dribble, so he can do a number of things. Do you believe a specific shooter, a guy that will be kind of lining up on the arc and being that guy that can just knock down jumpers for that team? Do they need that guy, do you think, as this season progresses?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think that's one of the biggest question marks with this team. But having said that, Caleb Love, I don't necessarily consider him a shooter. He's a scorer.
Yeah,
he's a veteran scorer who scored on a high level on big stages. So for me, being where he's at in his collegiate career, he is the guy that I initially see I want to look to for those big points, for those big shots. I think Colin Boswell is another individual. He takes a lot of tough threes, so his percentages might not always show it, but he is a guy who can definitely knock down shots when his feet are set and he has room. Obviously, Pelle Larson is an individual who can knock down 2 or 3 threes a game. I think early on when we were looking at practices and some of the early tapes, Philip Borovikinen, he has really shown himself to be a guy that, they can run him off staggers. We saw that during the exhibition game, running him off the baseline. And when he gets his feet set, he could be a guy who's in those 40 range as a three-point shooter as long as he has good looks. So they're there, but collectively I just think it's going to be more so of Tommy Lloyd's system of getting stops, getting into the break, playing it at high-low, and then sharing that basketball for the best available shots.
Reg, the guards on the perimeter and the amount of pressure they put on that last game, and obviously Lewis and Clark State notwithstanding, on-ball pressure defense reminded me a lot of those early 90s teams when you're talking about how good on-ball Kylan Boswell can be, Caleb Love, Jaden Bradley, very impressed with his on-ball defense, and KJ Lewis, aforementioned. The pressure they put on, 17 steals, and obviously the opponent, you have to factor that in. Do you think this year's team that Coach Lloyd's going to go a little bit deeper into the bench and therefore maybe use a little bit more pressure, not be super worried about fouls? Because with the front court they have, obviously we didn't see everybody out there in that game on Friday. They've got a lot of depth at the front court as well. It feels like those guards can really put extra pressure on ball handlers, and all of them seem pretty disciplined with their hands. They're not trying to take too many risks.
Yeah, that's why if you heard me on the broadcast or the team, I was just super excited about that. I kept looking out there, and defensively, first of all, with the depth and talent of this team, Coach Lloyd, Tommy's got just a number of different lineups he can go with, whether it's small or big. But when looking at that smaller lineup, when we'll just talk about when they had Boswell, Love. KJ Lewis was out there. They had the ability, their physicality, their quickness. They had the ability to really change the tempo, and they did it to Lewis Clark and took them completely out of what they want to do. Obviously, Lewis Clark isn't the level of competition we're going to see throughout the season, but more importantly, I just looked at that athleticism, that tenacity, and I was like, man, that travels. That's something that we can take all season with us. And obviously, with Boswell or any of your point guards, when your point guard is up front, up top, half court, top of the key, and he's putting that pressure on there, it's infectious. Everyone feeds off that, and next thing you know, you got KJ Lewis, you got Keishad, jumping the lane, or Pelle Larson, and now if you just to piggyback on top of that, you have this great ball pressure, and then when you look behind you, you realize we have 4 7-footers on the roster. Umar Ballo's a big body. Henry Baystar's a shot blocker. Even though we didn't get to see him, Moti Krivas, another individual 7-footer. So now you got backline defenders. So they have all the levels here to be a really, really good defensive team, and that's why I'm so excited.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Coach Lloyd, through his first 2 years, the offense speaks for itself. Very open, freewheeling, 24-plus assists a game. I think Arizona fans have become accustomed to that. But with some of the freshmen they brought in, especially Morauskas, really big body, Vasar coming back, the size on this year's team, Reg, just besides those 7-footers, obviously Keyshawn Johnson brings a lot of size as well. So, I mean, I don't even know if I have a question here for you, but the amount of defensive versatility, it just feels like they can put so many different lineups out there. And I'll tell you one thing, they've played throughout the summer, obviously on the trip across the sea, and obviously they've played a lot against each other. How ready are these guys to see another jersey, another top-flight team? We know Duke's second game of the season, but how ready are these guys to go ahead and take out some of that on somebody else? I mean, you've been there, a lot of depth on this team, a lot of times guys trying to make a name for themselves and get into the rotation. How ready are they to see another team across the way?
This time of year, they're ready. I mean, in terms of mentally, in terms of you're just tired of being against each other. You want to see some faces to kind of go after. But having said that, these are all these two exhibitions, or at least the one more remaining, and the practice from here. These are auditions for these guys. These guys are really auditioning for Coach Lloyd and trying to say, hey, I think it's really an audition for the 7th, 8th, and 9th guy, or 8th, 9th, and 10th guy of this team early in the season in terms of who's going to be in that 10-man rotation if Coach decides to go that far. And so you're competing every day. This is when it starts to get a little chippy in practice because everyone's just biting at the bit because they want to see some fresh faces. But it's just that's what makes Arizona such a great place. It's such a competitive environment. So we have one exhibition game left. I'm sure the guys are gangbusters. There's still a lot of work to do between now and the first game. Morgan State and in particular Duke, they have a lot of work to do, and I'm sure they're working hard to try to get there.
Well, Reggie, you just kind of led into my next question. Reggie Gary, Arizona guard, 1996, joining us. How many players do you think, or how deep do you think this rotation is going to be? Because I've said it. I've counted 10 guys, and I know you just mentioned 10. Can he really play 10 guys?
I think honestly, I think any coach would, you would love to play 10. If you can get to it. But it seems like, Tommy, he probably as the season goes on, he's probably going to fall back to that 7 or 8 man rotation, 8 probably being the preferable number. But once again, if number 9 man and number 10 man can earn his trust and say, hey, coach, if you give me these minutes, I can give you valuable production, I can give you valuable energy, that I have no problem seeing him go 10. So Coach Lloyd's got some good problems. And a lot of guys competing for those minutes.
Yeah, if you're trusting 10 guys out there, Reg, that's the thing. It's like if you've got 10 guys you can call upon and they're going to be efficient out there on the court, then I think the players really dictate that rotation, right?
100%, yeah. The players do, and then if you can go 10, now you can really extend your pressure. Now you can think about pressing. Now you can think about kind of wearing down that first unit, knowing though I got 5 guys I can bring off the bench with the same type of quality of play, same type of talent, and same type of energy. That's when you start taking 5-point leads to 15 or being down 8 and back to the game, and you just make yourself such much more of a dangerous team.
Reggie, before we let you go, the one of the greatest Wildcats to ever wear the uniform here in Tucson retired last week from the National Basketball Association in Andre Iguodala, a leader in terms of the alums that have played in this program and gone on to play in the NBA in terms of a number of categories. What is kind of your thoughts on the legacy of Andre, what he was able to do here, and how he was able to parlay that into a 19-year career in the league?
Yeah, just an incredible legacy, in all honesty. Obviously, he came to Arizona and just a standout talent. And for him to go in the NBA and play 19 years, to have the career he had with multiple championships, to be Team USA, to be an all-star, and more importantly, just how he represented, the University of Arizona, always with class, always with professionalism. When you hear Steve Kerr speak about him, it's never what he does on the court. They're always talking about his IQ and what he brings, not only on the floor, but to the locker room and to the huddle. He was just invaluable for championship culture. which he always kind of seemed to find himself in. So just a fantastic career, a great individual. He's going to have a lot of options. I know he has a serious goal of being a billionaire, and I think from his time being out in Silicon Valley and some of the connections he's made, he's really doing big things there. And he's also a golfer. I think he's like a scratch golfer. So every time I just sent him a message the other day saying, all right, now we got more time to go play. And so he just had a fantastic career, and we just been very proud of what he's done.
Hey, Reggie, we appreciate you taking a few moments. Love to talk to you again as the season goes along.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, guys, for having me on. You guys are doing great, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Reggie Geary, he is our Arizona insider for today.
Thanks to Coors Light for bringing you today's Arizona Insiders on Wildcats Radio 1290. Coors Light, official corporate sponsors of Arizona Athletics. There's nothing like game day in Arizona.
All right, real quick, some breaking news here. Very unfortunate breaking news. Former Arizona Wildcats head coach Kevin Sumlin was arrested on Saturday morning for DUI in Florida. He was released on bond. Maryland was on a bye this past weekend, so that's just unfortunate news. There's been a lot of talk in the past about Kevin Sumlin and an issue that he had with alcohol, and it apparently has snuck up on him again. We'll have much more on that coming up for you tomorrow. Kevin Sumlin arrested in Florida over the weekend and charged with DUI, the former Arizona Wildcats football coach. That's going to wrap up our show for today. We've got Jetfish Radio Show coming up. Thanks to J-Dub, thanks to Cricket, thanks to all of our guests. Most of all, thanks to you for listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow. I'm David Kelly. This is DK on the Sports Tip. You're listening to Wildcats Radio 1290.
Overnight tonight, road work, intermittent lane closures along I-10 between Keno Parkway and Rita Road. Road crews will work from 7 tonight until 5 tomorrow morning. 60 the low and clear overnight, 25% chance of rain, and 79 tomorrow. Breezy, 85 now. I'm Cricket with your Wildcats Radio 1290 traffic and weather together.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Lowe's knows fall is the perfect time for outdoor projects. Right now, you can keep your yard looking its best and save. Take care of leaves with leaf blowers starting at just $89.98. Lowe's knows home improvement. While supplies last, see store for details.
October is Squirrel Awareness and Appreciation Month, and even a squirrel can appreciate and be aware of how much money you can save during Truck Month at O'Reilly Chevrolet. Even they know to go anywhere else would be nutty.
O'Reilly Chevrolet.
Everyone is talking about the Cats and where to find them on the radio.
Wildcat Radio, 1290 AM on your dial, just talking all day long.
Keep your radio locked to 1290 so you don't miss any of the action. We are Wildcats Radio 1290.
Wendy's new breakfast 2 for $3 Biggie Bundles let you create your own delicious combo. Choose from a sausage biscuit, egg and cheese biscuit, small seasoned potatoes, and a medium hot coffee. But it's obvious which combo's the best. Sausage biscuit and small seasoned potatoes. Well, maybe it's the fresh cracked egg and cheese biscuit with a medium hot coffee. Or 2 savory sausage biscuits. Whichever you pick, you can't go wrong. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's new 2 for $3 Biggie Bundles.
Limited time only. U.S. price and participation may vary. Not valid in a combo. Single item at regular price.
Okay, kids, we're home. Everybody out.
Ew, my feet are stuck.
In what, honey?
On the floor.
Ew. Take off your shoes. Tommy, come carry your sister into the house.
What do you do when the car you use the most has the least amount of time to get clean? Let Recon Auto Detailing, Arizona's premier auto detailing company, come to you and turn your busiest car back into your best. From basic cleaning to a full detail, Recon Auto Detailing. Online at recondetail.com.
Wildcats Radio 1290 is proud to support your Arizona Wildcat football team as they continue their season with another home game this Saturday at Arizona Stadium.
This week, the Wildcats take on Oregon State. Kickoff is scheduled for 7:30 p.m.
To get your tickets, visit ArizonaWildcats.com or call 621-CATS. For more University of Arizona Wildcat football, including a complete schedule and link to buy tickets online, log on to WildcatsRadio1290.com.
Think of waking up with energy, standing tall and feeling free. Think first chiropractic, good health is to enjoy.
For over 30 years, Tucson has been putting its trust in First Chiropractic for auto and on-the-job injuries. They're locally owned and a proud sponsor of the U of A radio broadcasts. So if you've been injured, make the right choice first.
First Chiropractic, good health is to enjoy.
It's a breaking news report as we go live with Hal and Ruthie.
Thanks, Bob. Goodfellas is